Chapter 1238. After agreeing to Su Muyun's request, Tang Ao didn't hesitate. Since Su Muyun's kitten knew how to use Psyche, Tang Ao said directly, "I want to guide the Jade Bone Life Soul into your body to check if it can heal your injuries. Release your Psyche and don't stop me." This kitten's intelligence was surprisingly high. After Tang Ao said this, the kitten immediately nodded obediently. Tang Ao activated his Psyche, and the Jade Bone Life Soul jumped out of Tang Ao's body like a green fairy. Perhaps it was because Tang Ao had been weak for too long that the Jade Bone Life Soul hadn't recovered. Now that Tang Ao had recovered a little, the Jade Bone Life Soul had become very fiery. Under Tang Ao's control, the Jade Bone Life Soul, which emitted a faint green glow, flew towards Xiaoling. After flying around her for a while, it quietly entered her body. Tang Ao also closed his eyes at this moment and carefully sensed Xiaoling's internal injuries. Under Tang Ao's perception, Xiaoling's internal energy was very chaotic. Xiaoling's internal organs were almost completely exhausted and extremely weak. This state was really terrible, but when Tang Ao saw the broken inner core in Xiaoling's dantian, Tang Ao's eyes gradually turned serious. Tang Ao slowly withdrew his perception. The Jade Bone Life Soul rebuked Tang Ao for staying in Xiaoling's body temporarily to maintain her vitality. As long as Tang Ao's Yuan Qi wasn't exhausted, the Jade Bone Life Soul could stay in Xiaoling's body. "Miss Su, have you been raising Xiaoling?" The inner core of a demonic beast was like a martial artist's spiritual sea. Normally, when a martial artist's spiritual sea was broken, their martial artist's life was considered over. However, Tang Ao was different. With the Nine Dragons Emperor's jade body, Tang Ao not only had a spiritual sea but also a soul sea that other martial artists didn't have. Moreover, even after Tang Ao's spiritual sea and soul sea were damaged, Tang Ao could still cultivate. Even if his spiritual sea and soul sea were broken, Tang Ao's life wouldn't be in danger. On the contrary, Tang Ao's spiritual sea and soul sea were still recovering very slowly. However, this recovery speed was too slow. Even if Tang Ao used up his lifespan, he probably wouldn't be able to wait for his spiritual sea and soul sea to completely recover. Therefore, Tang Ao could only keep searching for a way to heal his soul and spiritual sea. Back then, he had thought that aside from the spirit ice fruit in the Kitagarbha cemetery, the farmer godgrass he had given Lu Lingxian might also be able to heal his soul sea and spiritual sea. However, Tang Ao had relied on his Jade Bone Life Soul to generously give away the Shenong grass. Now, even if Tang Ao wanted to borrow the Jade Bone Life Soul, he wouldn't be able to find Lu Lingxian. "No, I met Little Ling in Evergreen Valley. She was seriously injured and needs large amounts of essence qi to maintain her life." Su Muyun gently stroked Little Ling. She had picked up Little Ling 3 years ago in a perilous place in Evergreen Valley. Little Ling had been by her side for the past 3 years. In this cold, dark, and deceitful hidden dragon cave, Su Muyun was most relaxed when she was with Little Ling. "I can use the Jade Bone Life Soul to heal Little Ling's external injuries, but I can't do anything about her internal injuries. For some reason, Little Ling's inner core has been shattered. Now there is only a small fragment of the inner core in her body to maintain her life. Once this small fragment is used up, Little Ling will." Tang Ao didn't continue. However, when he saw Little Ling and Su Muyun's sad expressions, Tang Ao knew that they understood what he meant. Chapter 1239. Tang Ao did not answer Su Muyun's question immediately. Instead, he fell into deep thought. According to Tang Ao's understanding, the slightest damage to a demonic beast's inner core would immediately result in severe injuries or even death. However, Little Ling's inner core was already shattered, and she was only very weak. She had not died immediately. This was far beyond Tang Ao's understanding. "Miss Su, did you give Little Ling some kind of treasure?" Although this question was a little presumptuous, Tang Ao could not help but ask. Tang Ao's current condition could be said to be very similar to Little Ling's. It was just that Tang Ao had the 9 Dragons Emperor's jade body. Therefore, even if his spiritual sea and soul sea were shattered, Tang Ao would still be alive and kicking. However, Tang Ao did not think that Xiao Ling would have such a physique. Therefore, Tang Ao guessed that Little Ling must have consumed some kind of treasure to be able to survive after her inner core was shattered. Are you talking about the essence augmenting pill? Apart from the essence augmenting pill that is necessary for my cultivation, I gave all the other essence augmenting pills to Little Ling. Also, I would occasionally find some spirit herbs in the Evergreen Valley and give them to Little Ling. Apart from that, Little Ling did not eat anything else, Su Muyin said after recalling for a moment. Tang Ao really wanted to say that something like the essence augmenting pill was not a treasure, but Tang Ao did not say it out loud. After all, Tang Ao was on a different level from the martial artists of the Flying Star continent. For a life-and-death realm martial artist like Tang Ao, an elixir like the essence augmenting pill was indeed nothing. However, for a body-refining realm martial artist, the essence augmenting pill was a rare treasure. As for the spirit herbs that Su Muyin mentioned, Tang Ao did not think that it was because of these spirit herbs. Rare and precious spirit herbs would definitely be guarded by high-level demonic beasts. Although Su Muyin was quite strong, it would not be easy for him to find such spirit herbs. Also, according to Tang Ao's understanding, the Flying Star continent had no natural spiritual energy at all, and its rules and Taoist connotation were not very complete. There shouldn't be any heaven-defying treasures in such a low-level plane. Thinking of this, Tang Ao suddenly realized that Ling might not necessarily be a demon beast from the Flying Star continent. It was very likely that she had come from another plane just like him. If that was the case, Little Ling might have obtained some treasures from another plane and escaped to the Flying Star continent, where she was discovered by Su Muyin. After thinking of this result, Tang Ao was a little disappointed. Although Tang Ao did not have much hope that he could recover his strength in the Flying Star continent, Tang Ao was more or less hopeful. Just as Tang Ao was sighing, Xiao Ling suddenly raised her little claw and a water mirror slowly condensed in front of Tang Ao. Not long after, an image appeared in the water mirror. It was a valley with lush vegetation, and it was full of vitality. However, in contrast to this lifeless scene, Tang Ao did not see any demonic beasts or human martial artists in the image. The image slowly changed. Tang Ao guessed that this should be what Little Ling saw when she was flying in the air. Judging from her flying speed, Little Ling should be in a seriously injured state. As Little Ling continued to go deeper into the valley, Tang Ao heard waves of evil beast roars. The surrounding vegetation was no longer as green as before, and it was now grayish-white. Seeing this, Su Muyin exclaimed, "Little Ling, you've been to the depths of the Long Green Valley?" Only then did Tang Ao understand that this place was the so-called Long Green Valley. Chapter 1240. As the image changed, Tang Ao saw that the monster had 4 sharp claws under its body. It was strange yet terrifying. Although the appearance of the beast was strange, what surprised Tang Ao was not its appearance, but its cultivation. Based on Tang Ao's experience, these beasts were at least at the Sea of Souls realm based on the aura they emitted. If this were the Black-Yellow continent, the Winter Plains, or even the Xitigarbha Cemetery, Sea of Souls realm beasts would be nothing. However, in a place like the Flying Star continent, where even the strongest human warriors could only reach the first level of origin martial realm, the presence of such beasts in the Evergreen Valley would be a disaster for the warriors of the Flying Star continent. In just a short while, Tang Ao had already seen dozens of such beasts in the Evergreen Valley. Moreover, what Tang Ao saw was only a portion of the beasts that Xiao Ling had seen before. Who knew how many of them there were in the Evergreen Valley? However, this was not the end. As Xiao Ling went deeper, the strength of the surrounding beasts gradually increased as well. From the first level of the Sea of Souls realm to now, Tang Ao had already found several powerful beasts on the 9th floor of Linghaijing. Not to mention a few of these beasts, even if one appeared, it would definitely be a disaster for the entire Flying Star continent. It was also at this moment that a star-like flower suddenly appeared in the image. These flowers were surrounded by countless light dots that looked like fireflies, looking very mystical. What beautiful flowers! Sumyun couldn't help but say after seeing these flowers. However, when Tang Ao saw these star-like flowers, he was shocked speechless. After a long while, Tang Ao murmured, "These are the legendary Kunlun flowers that only exist in the immortal realm of Kunlun. I did not expect such a heaven-defying treasure to exist in the depths of the Evergreen Valley." After seeing the Kunlun flowers, the image Xiao Ling showed Tang Ao, and Tang Ao abruptly changed. Immediately after, Tang Ao saw a faint spatial fluctuation appear beside one of the Kunlun flowers. Following that, a tender little claw reached out from the void, grabbed the Kunlun flower, and fled. There was no need for Tang Ao and Lu Ta to ask to know that it was Xiao Ling. However, before Xiao Ling could get far, a scarlet-red beam of light pierced through the void, creating a rift that was hundreds of feet long in the space where Xiao Ling was hiding. Seeing this scene, Tang Ao was shocked. Tang Ao was sure that the scarlet light was just a casual attack from this unknown monster. Being able to shatter the void with a casual attack was already beyond the scope of astral reaching realm. In other words, the one who attacked Ling in the end was in existence above the astral reaching realm. However, this thing seemed to be in a very bad state. It was unable to hit Xiao Ling directly, and its attacks were also very scattered. It was also because of this that one attack from it caused the space within hundreds of feet to crack. "Xiao Ling, did you eat that flower just now?" Sumyun did not know about the Kunlun flowers, so he asked Xiao Ling curiously. Xiao Ling also nodded obediently. She had wanted to show Sumyun this image from her memory before, but because she was wounded too badly and did not have enough yuan qi, she did not show it to Sumyun. This time, she had refined 2 mid-rank yuan raising pellets in one go, so her yuan qi was much more abundant. Therefore, Xiao Ling told this to Tang Ao and Sumyun. Chapter 1241. What made Tang Ao feel helpless was that there seemed to be a monster at the Yin-Yang realm hidden where the Kunlun flower grew. If Tang Ao didn't want to die, Tang Ao really didn't want to come into contact with an existence at this level. With Tang Ao's current level of cultivation, Tang Ao probably wouldn't even be able to use the space talisman to escape if he encountered such a thing. Little Ling had been lucky enough to escape last time because of her spatial talent. After obtaining the Kunlun flower, Little Ling immediately escaped into the void. But even so, Little Ling's inner core had been smashed to pieces, and she had almost died. Tang Ao didn't think that he could use the space talisman faster than Little Ling using her spatial talents to escape into the void. "Tang Ao, why do I feel that those beasts in Little Ling's memories are very strong? Just looking at the images gives me a shiver." Sumyun was sitting on the bed, and Little Ling was lying in her arms. Looking at its lazy appearance, it seemed like it was really just an ordinary kitten. But Tang Ao knew that a kitten with spatial talents was definitely not ordinary. If Tang Ao's guess was right, Little Ling should be from the civet race of the civet world. But for some reason, Little Ling didn't seem to have any memories of the civet race. Tang Ao had Hades' Emperor's legacy, so Tang Ao knew that although there were countless planes in the universe, there were 10 planes that were the strongest. The predecessor of the Xianwang continent, the Xianwang realm, was also one of the 10 major realms. It was only after the Xianwang realm was shattered and its top experts, such as the Netherworld Emperor, Shenong Emperor, and Yun Xiaoyao, fell one after another that the Xianwang realm was removed from the 10 major realms. Yes, some of those beasts have already reached the origin martial realm. Tang Ao didn't tell the truth. If Tang Ao told the truth, Su Muyun might not believe him, and it might cause panic. Even if Tang Ao spoke the truth, it would be useless. With Su Muyun's strength, she would have a hard time dealing with Origin Realm monstrous beasts, let alone monstrous beasts above the Origin Realm. I really didn't expect that there would be such a black scale beast in the Evergreen Valley. Although I've heard others say it before, I don't really believe it, Su Muyun said to Tang Ao as he stroked Xiao Ling's soft fur. This kind of demonic beast is called the Black Scale Beast? The world of martial arts is filled with endless mysteries. There are still many things that we don't know about. Tang Ao had already stood at the peak of the black-yellow continent in his previous life, and he had also become a life and death expert in this life. Originally, Tang Ao thought that there was not much that he did not know about in the black-yellow continent or even the low-level plains around the black-yellow continent. However, this period of experience made Tang Ao understand that the world of martial arts was endless, and there were still many things that he did not know about. Miss Su, I heard that the martial artists here have to go to the Evergreen Valley every month to gather spiritual materials in exchange for cultivation resources. Can we enter the Evergreen Valley at any time? Or do they have any special requirements? Tang Ao felt that these questions should be explained on the jade slip that Cold Moon gave him. However, since he could ask Su Muyun now, Tang Ao was too lazy to look at the jade slip. You can enter the Evergreen Valley at any time, but you can't wander around the outskirts of the Evergreen Valley. There are a total of 12 factions in the Hidden Dragon Caves, so the outskirts of the Evergreen Valley are also divided into 12 regions. These 12 regions, the earlier the month, the easier it is to find resources, and the later the month, the lesser the resources. Our Qing Yun's region is the 12th region that ranks last. Chapter 1242. Woo! Just as Tang Ao and Su Muyun were chatting, a strange horn sound suddenly resounded in this space. Hearing this horn, Tang Ao was a little confused, not understanding what was going on. However, Su Muyun, who was sitting on the bed, had a change of expression. She was about to get up and rush out of the room, but just as she stood up, her legs gave way and she fell to the ground. Luckily, Tang Ao was quick and pulled Su Muyun back. Then, Tang Ao asked in confusion, "What happened?" This is a beast tide erupting at the outskirts of the Evergreen Valley. Emerald Cloud's encampment is considered not bad among the encampments of the major forces in the dragon-subduing caves, but it's precisely because of the frequent beast tides in the Evergreen Valley that the other forces haven't come to compete with Emerald Cloud. This is because no one can say for sure how powerful the demonic beasts in Evergreen Valley are. If any powerful demonic beasts were to rush out of Evergreen Valley, the warriors around Evergreen Valley wouldn't even have a chance to escape. After listening to Su Muyun's explanation, Tang Ao groaned inwardly. Ever since his cultivation was greatly damaged, no matter what bad luck happened, he would encounter it. At this time, Su Muyun's words interrupted Tang Ao's thoughts. The Hidden Dragon Caves have existed for who knows how long. Many warriors' descendants were born here. After a pause, Su Muyun continued, the Qing Yun League has also existed in the Hidden Dragon Caves for a long time. Behind the Qing Yun League's camp, there's a village. The village is filled with the old, sick, and disabled warriors of the Qing Yun League, and some children. Every time a beast tide breaks out, that place is the most tragic. Su Muyun's expression was very sad as she spoke. This was because she was one of the children of the Qing Yun village chief. Now, she really wanted to go back to Qing Yun village to save people, but her body clearly didn't allow her to do so. So that's how it is. Then rest well here. Give me the map to Qing Yun village. I'll go to Qing Yun village now to help. Really? That's great. Su Muyun's face lit up when he heard that Tang Ao was willing to go to Qing Yun village to help. For the Qing Yun Union, the encampment of the Qing Yun Union was the most important. Therefore, every time a beast tide broke out, most of the warriors of the Qing Yun Union would stay at the encampment of the Qing Yun Union. Only a few warriors were willing to protect the Qing Yun village. In this way, even if the demonic beasts that attacked Qing Yun village were not very strong, they would still bring great disasters to Qing Yun village every time. Tang Ao's body refining realm level 5 cultivation was only slightly below average in the hidden dragon cave. But if Tang Ao could reach Qing Yun village in time, he would definitely be able to save many people. Therefore, Su Muyun did not waste any time and immediately took out a map from his storage ring and handed it to Tang Ao. After hesitating for a moment, Su Muyun also handed over her own storage ring. "Miss Su, you don't have to do this. Just keep this storage ring well." Tang Ao did not take Su Muyun's storage ring. He just took the map and rushed out the door. In the hidden dragon cave, the storage ring of a warrior at the peak of the body refining realm level 6 was precious enough, but Tang Ao still wouldn't want it. Tang Ao was not the kind of person to take advantage of others, and Su Muyun had saved his life before. Now that he was doing this for Su Muyun, Tang Ao was still willing. Chapter 1243. Looking around, Tang Ao could see many demonic beasts wreaking havoc in the village. From time to time, people would be torn to shreds, bitten to death, or killed by demonic beasts. Su Muyun was not wrong. Tang Ao looked around and only saw about 10 martial artists fighting with demonic beasts. The rest of the people in the village were elderly martial artists and some children. There were also some martial artists in their prime, but most of them were crippled. Tang Ao saw that not far away, there was a one-armed, one-legged martial artist blocking 3 corroding bone wolves in front of him, protecting the 3 children behind him. Although his cultivation level was not weak, his crippled body meant that he could only use 30% of his strength. Tang Ao did not even have time to save him before he was torn to shreds by the 3 corroding bone wolves. After the 3 corroding bone wolves tore the martial artist to shreds, they immediately pounced on the 3 young children. At this time, a female martial artist nearby also rushed over. This was a 16 or 17-year-old girl. She was covered in blood, and her aura was also very chaotic. Sister Qian. After seeing the young girl in front of them, the 3 children cried out in surprise. Situ Qian also smiled at them, but her smile was filled with bitterness. Situ Qian was only at the 4th stage of the body refining realm, but there were 3 corroding bone wolves in front of her. Even at her peak, Situ Qian did not dare to guarantee that she could defeat 3 adult corroding bone wolves. Now that she had expended so much energy, Situ Qian felt that she would most likely die here today. At this time, the 3 corroding bone wolves roared at the same time, and with a ferocious pace, they rushed towards Situ Qian. Situ Qian did not dare to be careless. She shouted to the 3 children behind her, "Run!" Immediately, she drew the long sword in her hand and rushed forward. However, Situ Qian was already exhausted after fighting for so long. Hence, the leading corroding bone wolf swiped its claws and sent the longsword in her hand flying. Without giving Situ Qian a chance to catch her breath, the 2nd and 3rd corroding bone wolves also attacked. Seeing the sharp wolf claws growing larger in her eyes, Situ Qian knew that her life was coming to an end. However, what puzzled Situ Qian was that the wolf claws that were supposed to tear her apart had strangely stopped at this moment. Situ Qian raised her head and saw a figure in a black robe. Behind this person, there were 7 azure lotus swords circling around like a peacock spreading its tail. In his hand, there was a long spear shining with silver light. At this moment, his spear had pierced through the body of the bone-eroding wolf in front of her, right through its heart. It was also because of this that the bone-eroding wolf, which had lost its life, did not tear her apart. Situ Qian looked at Tang Ao in a daze. In Situ Qian's memories, Qing Yun did not have such a martial artist. However, the jade pendant hanging on Tang Ao's waist showed that Tang Ao was indeed a martial artist of the Qing Yun Union. While Situ Chanchan was still in a daze, she saw Tang Ao's hand shake, and the corroding bone wolf on the spear tip was thrown away like a piece of trash. Immediately after, Tang Ao tightened his grip on the 100 battle spear soul and stabbed with it. The other corroding bone wolf died before it could even react. After Tang Ao pulled out the 100 battle spear soul again, he revealed a warm smile and said to Situ Chanchan, "Are you all right?" Tang Ao had a good impression of Situ Chanchan. If it wasn't for Situ Chanchan blocking the corroding bone wolf for a moment, Tang Ao would not have been able to save her in time. Moreover, Situ Chanchan still dared to step forward despite knowing that she was no match for the wolf. This showed that she was very kind. Chapter 1244. But Tang Ao did not even turn his head. He stabbed out with his spear and hit the corroding bone wolf in the throat. The corroding bone wolf struggled on the 100 battle spear soul for a while, and then completely stopped moving. Tang Ao had cleanly killed 3 corroding bone wolves at the 3rd level of the body refining realm. This caused Situ Chanchan to have doubts about body refining realm martial artists. Could it be that a martial artist at the 5th level of the body refining realm was this strong? Miss Tang Ao was a little speechless. It seemed like this child still lacked training. She could actually be distracted at such a time. Ah! Hearing Tang Ao call her, Situ Chanchan, who had a love-struck look on her face, blushed. The shyness of a young girl was undeniable at this moment. "I'm fine. My name is Situ Chanchan. What's senior brother's name?" Tang Ao. Tang Ao did not continue to stay after saying this. The 100 battle spear soul flashed, and Tang Ao kept it back into his body. Immediately, Tang Ao leaped into the air, took a few light steps, and headed towards another group of demonic beasts. This group of demonic beasts was very ugly, and there was a layer of black and purple poisonous fog around their bodies. They did not even fight with martial artists. As long as someone touched their poisonous fog, they would instantly vomit blood and fall to the ground, twitching incessantly. And at this time, this group of demonic beasts would walk to the side of the poisoned person, bite his neck, and start sucking his blood. Around this group of demonic beasts, there were 3 martial artists who were constantly being forced to retreat. And behind these 3 martial artists, there was a large group of people who were constantly fleeing. But these people were too slow, and the distance between them and the demonic beasts was constantly shrinking. Faced with this situation, the 3 of them looked at each other and rushed into the poisonous fog to fight with this group of demonic beasts. But they had clearly underestimated the power of this poisonous fog. As soon as the 3 of them touched the poisonous fog, they immediately vomited blood and fell to the ground, twitching incessantly. This scene was coincidentally seen by Tang Ao and Situ Chanchan. Tang Ao immediately wanted to go forward to help, but he was held back by Situ Chanchan. "Senior brother Tang Ao, this is a venomous feather monster. The layer of dark purple poison around them was very powerful. As long as it comes into contact with the skin, the toxin will be absorbed into the body. After that, the martial artist will immediately vomit blood and fall to the ground, twitching non-stop and finally die in pain." Looking at these venomous feathered monsters, Situ Chanchan's eyes were unprecedentedly solemn. At this time, another group of martial artists also walked over. There were 7 or 8 of them, and they all had some injuries on their bodies. Seeing these poison-winged monsters and the 3 young warriors twitching in the poison fog of the poison-winged monsters, an older warrior sighed helplessly. Little Shirtu and the other 2 were too careless. No matter what, the poison of the poison-winged monsters cannot be touched. "Uncle Zhong, what should we do now?" Situ Chanchan clearly knew this martialist, so she asked anxiously. "The poison fog of the poison-winged monster is limited. Evacuate everyone away from the poison-winged monster first. The rest of us will follow it. When the poison fog of the poison-winged monster disperses, we will kill it together. What about Brother Sure and the others? Little girl, the three of them have been poisoned by the poison-winged beast. There is nothing we can do. Listening to these people's conversation, Tang Ao didn't act rashly. Although this middle-aged warrior's idea was good, Tang Ao felt that it was still worth a try to save the three young warriors at this time. Chapter 1245. The other martial artists also shook their heads helplessly. Everyone wanted to be a hero, but in the world of martial artists, only a living hero was a hero. A dead hero was worthless. Tang Ao's current actions looked very heroic, but in the eyes of these people, it was more of a rash move. To deal with the poison-winged monsters, Zhong Shan's method was clearly the best. The poisonous fog of the poison-winged monsters was not endless. When the poisonous fog of the poison-winged monsters ran out, everyone would swarm up and kill the group of poison-winged monsters without any effort. But now that Tang Ao acted rashly, once he came into contact with the poisonous fog, Tang Ao would definitely be poisoned. After being poisoned by the poisonous fog of the poison-winged monsters, no matter how strong Tang Ao was, he would only die. Sidu Qianqian did not think that Tang Ao would actually not listen to her advice. She had already told Tang Ao about the power of the poisonous fog, but Tang Ao still rushed towards the poison-winged monsters without hesitation. In this world, was there really someone who was not afraid of death? Seeing Tang Ao getting closer and closer to the poisonous fog, Sidu Qianqian closed her eyes in despair. But after Sidu Qianqian closed her eyes, she did not hear the scream of Tang Ao that she had imagined. Instead, she heard a strange sound. Sidu Qianqian quickly opened her eyes and saw that Tang Ao's figure just happened to stop one step away from the poisonous fog. The 7 green lotus swords floating behind Tang Ao were like living creatures that rushed into the poisonous fog to slaughter the poison-winged monsters. Tang Ao's green lotus sword soul was so powerful that it was beyond everyone's imagination. Whether it was a venomous plume beast at the 3rd level of the body refining realm, a venomous plume beast at the 4th level, or even a venomous plume beast at the 5th level of the body refining realm, they didn't even have the chance to dodge under Tang Ao's green lotus sword soul. Seeing this scene, everyone looked at Tang Ao with a strange gaze. Because they had been guarding Qin Yun village, these people did not know that Tang Ao had joined the Qin Yun alliance. Even so, everyone could still see that Tang Ao's surrounding Yuan Qi waves did not exceed the 5th level of the body refining realm. However, what everyone could not understand was that the venomous feathered feather, which was also at the 5th level of the body refining realm, could not even withstand a single move from Tang Ao. Could it be that martial artists at the 5th level of the body refining realm were all so strong now? Zhong Shan was even more embarrassed. He was the only 6th level body refining realm martial artist here. However, in Zhong Shan's opinion, even if he could ignore the poison fog of the poison-winged monsters, killing this group of poison-winged monsters would not be an easy task. But now, Tang Ao had killed all the poison-winged monsters like cutting vegetables in front of their eyes. After Tang Ao killed these poison-winged monsters, the last poison-winged monster with blood-colored fur suddenly let out a strange cry. Immediately, it swallowed the surrounding poison fog back into its body. Even the blood of the surrounding poison-winged monsters also flew towards it. Not good, it is going to mutate. Although Zhong Shan's combat strength was not as strong as Tang Ao's, Zhong Shan's knowledge was not something that Tang Ao could compare with. After seeing this poison-winged monster's actions, Zhong Shan immediately exclaimed. Tang Ao also knew that he could not let this poison-winged monster mutate. It was just that the surrounding poison fog was blocking him, so Tang Ao did not dare to rashly enter this poison fog. Now, even if Tang Ao wanted to block it, it was already too late. At this time, the poison-winged monster in front of Tang Ao had also completed its mutation. After the mutation, the poison-winged monster's body had expanded by 3 times. Its aura had also reached the peak of the 6th level of the body refining realm. It was infinitely close to the 7th level of the body refining realm. After the mutation, the poison-winged monster became even more berserk. With a sudden roar, dozens of poisonous thorns shot towards Tang Ao. Tang Ao's figure leaped into the air, and took a few light steps in the air, dodging all the poisonous thorns of the poison-winged monster. However, not everyone had Tang Ao's movement technique. After Tang Ao dodged the venomous winged feather's attack, the venomous winged feather once again opened its mouth and spat out dozens of venomous stingers towards the others. Many of the slower martial artists instantly vomited blood and fell to the ground. They twitched on the ground, and black blood flowed continuously from their eyes. It looked very terrifying. Chapter 1246. Evil creature, don't be arrogant. As Zhong Shan anxiously shouted for everyone to retreat, Tang Ao actually charged towards the mutated poison-feathered monster again. Zhong Shan recognized Tang Ao's combat ability, but he still felt that Tang Ao was too rash. Tang Ao's current cultivation level was only at the early stages of the 5th stage of the body refining realm, but the mutated poison-feathered monster was at the peak of the 6th stage of the body refining realm. Also, because demonic beasts had a strong physique, even a normal 7th stage body refining realm martial artist might not be a match for this mutated poison-feathered monster. But Tang Ao was confident in his bravery and actually didn't listen to the advice and charged forward. Sigh. Brother Tang Ao's ability is not weak. What a pity. Yeah, let's quickly organize the others to retreat. We can't let Brother Tang Ao's sacrifice be in vain. Uncle Zhong, are we not going to care about Senior Brother Tang Ao? Situ Qianqian's eyes were already glistening with tears. Situ Qianqian had a very good impression of Tang Ao, not only because Tang Ao had saved her, but also because Tang Ao was very brave. Even when facing the strong poison-feathered monster, Tang Ao didn't retreat half a step. At this moment, Tang Ao didn't know what these people were thinking. At this moment, Tang Ao only felt very carefree. Ever since coming to the Flying Star continent, Tang Ao had been in a state of serious injury. This had almost depressed Tang Ao to death. Now that his external injuries had completely healed, Tang Ao could finally go all out and fight. Because of the limitations of his cultivation level, Tang Ao couldn't use most of his martial techniques and life spirit. But against this poison-feathered monster, Tang Ao wasn't afraid. Roar, roar, roar. The mutated poison-feathered monster was abnormally violent. After seeing Tang Ao in front of it, the poison-feathered monster let out a deafening roar. This roar was like Lei Ming, and it made everyone's eardrums hurt. Zhong Shan knew that the continuous roar of the poison-feathered monster meant that it was on the verge of going berserk. Brother Tang Ao, run! Although Zhong Shan knew that Tang Ao, who was facing the venomous winged beast, had no chance of surviving, Zhong Shan couldn't help but shout at Tang Ao. Qin Yun village belonged to the Qin Yun Alliance, and it was also the only village in the Qin Yun Alliance. During the beast horde outbreak, only Tang Ao came to support the Qin Yun Union's encampment, so Zhong Shan and the rest were very grateful to Tang Ao. However, Tang Ao did not listen to their advice and rushed to fight with the mutated poison feather. Even if Zhong Shan and the others wanted to save Tang Ao, they did not have the strength to do so. Therefore, Zhong Shan could only hope that Tang Ao could luckily escape from the mouth of the poison-feathered monster. However, under such circumstances, Tang Ao's chances of escaping from the mouth of the venomous feathered monster were extremely small. Bang! There was a sudden explosion in mid-air, followed by waves of yuan qi ripples that surged in all directions, causing the surrounding air to tremble violently. After Tang Ao and the venomous feathered monster clashed head-on, Tang Ao was not killed by the venomous feathered monster in one move as everyone had expected. After a head-on clash, Tang Ao was only sent flying by the terrifying force of the venomous feathered monster. Everyone looked over and saw that there was a faint layer of golden light surrounding the surface of Tang Ao's body. This layer of golden light had many mysterious golden runes jumping around. If one stared at one of the runes for too long, they would even feel dizzy. Although everyone was far away from Tang Ao, they could still vaguely feel that this layer of golden armor was very tough. After the venomous feathered monster had mutated, its body was covered with a layer of incomparably hard black scales. Under such circumstances, Tang Ao did not seem to be suppressed by the venomous feathered monster head-on. Chapter 1247. In the cultivation of martial arts, the life spirit was the greatest help to a martial artist. A martial artist could have no divine weapon, no secret techniques, but they could not have a life spirit. Although all martial artists knew the importance of a life spirit, it was not easy to obtain one. First, to communicate with a life spirit, one had to use spiritual power to feel the existence of the boundless world. This was not difficult for many martial artists, but after entering the boundless world, if one wanted to obtain a better life spirit, they could only continue to climb and reach a higher level of the heaven domain. But this was easy to say but extremely difficult to do in reality. Even when many martial artists reached the higher levels of the heaven domain and found the life spirit they desired, there would be a situation where they could not sense it. Tang Ao released the 100 Battle Spear Soul and the Green Lotus Sword Soul at the beginning of the battle, and then released the Battle Sage Bone Life Spirit and the 10,000 Ghost Lock Soul. He had 4 life spirits at the 5th level of the body refining realm. This greatly refreshed Zhong Shan and the others' understanding of life spirit. One had to know that normally, ordinary martial artists would only begin to awaken their second life soul at the 5th level of the body refining realm. Even the more talented martial artists would only awaken their second life soul and begin to sense their third life soul. Only those rare geniuses could awaken 3 life spirits at the 5th level of the body refining realm and begin to sense the 4th. But now, Tang Ao had awakened 4 life spirits and could use them at will. Seeing this, Zhong Shan made a decision with a serious expression. The reason we are living in the dragon-subduing caves is so that one day we can leave this damned place. At least our descendants can leave this damned place. These years, countless genius martial artists have appeared in the dragon-subduing caves, but no one can lead us out of the prison of the dragon prison castle and leave this place. Following Zhong Shan's few words, the atmosphere gradually became heavy. The surrounding middle-aged martial artists did not speak and quietly listened to Zhong Shan. Brother Tang Ao was able to awaken 4 life spirits at the 5th level of the body refining realm. I do not need to elaborate on his martial arts talent. After the beast tide, none of the martial artists in Qing Yun's encampment came to help. Only Brother Tang Ao came. His character is naturally unquestionable. Therefore, this time, we must delay this venomous plume monster and let Brother Tang Ao escape. As long as Brother Tang Ao continues to grow like this, there will definitely be a day when he can lead everyone out of this place. After Zhong Shan finished, everyone nodded their heads seriously. Although it was very likely that they would all die here, as Zhong Shan said, Tang Ao was everyone's hope to leave this place. Uncle Zhong Shan, I don't think that's necessary. Just as the few of them were about to sacrifice themselves to cover Tang Ao's retreat, Situ Qianqian's weak voice could be heard. Immediately, everyone turned to look at the battlefield and saw the pitch-black chain in Tang Ao's hand piercing through the body of the poison-winged beast. The intense pain caused the poison-feathered monster to let out a series of blood-curdling screeches. The violent energy also caused the surrounding houses to shake and fall. Tang Ao, who was fighting with the poison-winged beast, was also amazed. Just now, the Green Lotus Sword Soul was unable to pierce through the layer of scales of the poison-winged beast. He did not expect that after summoning the 10,000 Ghost Soul Lock, he would be able to so easily injure this poison-winged beast. However, after feeling the endless soul fluctuations from the 10,000 ghost soul lock, Tang Ao's eyes gradually turned cold. Chapter 1248. This void door was very blurry, as if it was formed by mist. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't even be able to see its existence. However, when this door appeared, everyone clearly felt their souls tremble slightly. As the door slowly opened, everyone could even feel an aura of life withering from within. It was as if behind this door was a forbidden area for life. This door was naturally the gate of the underworld that Tang Ao had summoned. However, the current gate of the underworld only had a vague outline. Even so, the energy in Tang Ao's body was instantly sucked clean. Tang Ao's soul remembrance was also instantly used up. Although Tang Ao was incomparably weak, Tang Ao still pointed a finger at the poison feather monster. Under this finger, the poison feather monster exploded and struggled violently. Just now, although Tang Ao had used 10,000 Ghost Soul Lock to trap it, the 10,000 Ghost Soul Lock wasn't able to kill it. However, at this moment, the poison feather monster felt the threat of death. As the poison feather monster struggled violently, the void door behind Tang Ao suddenly emitted a serene blue light. Under the speed of this light, any description of speed seemed powerless. However, everyone could faintly see that this serene blue light was a very beautiful sword. Not only was it beautiful, but it was also very fatal. In an instant, the netherworld sword pierced through the poison feather monster's body and disappeared. After unleashing this sword attack, Tang Ao's body swayed a few times in the air before he also fell down. The moment Tang Ao fell to the ground, the venomous winged beast's body exploded into a bloody mist. Although they had seen it with their own eyes, everyone was still speechless. They had just witnessed a body refining realm 5th level martial artist kill a mutated poison feather monster. Moreover, it was a body refining realm 6th level poison feather monster. At this moment, Zhong Shan and the others looked at Tang Ao as if they were looking at a monster. "Senior brother Tang Ao, you're really awesome." Situ Qianqian jogged to Tang Ao's side and said happily. Situ Qianqian's eyes were still red. Just now, Situ Qianqian thought that Tang Ao was going to die under the claws of the venomous feathered monster. But now, not only did Tang Ao not die, he even killed the venomous feathered monster. The contrast was too big. "Brother Tang Ao, you're really something." After Tang Ao killed the venomous feathered beast, Zhong Shan and the others came over. In the world of martial arts, only the strong were respected. No one cared about your qualifications or age. As long as you had strength, you would be respected. At first, when everyone saw Tang Ao, they only admired Tang Ao's courage and martial skills. But now, when everyone looked at Tang Ao, their gazes were filled with respect. However, at this moment, Tang Ao couldn't be happy at all. On the surface, the venomous feathered monster had indeed been killed by him. But when the venomous feathered monster exploded, Tang Ao's skypole eyes had clearly seen a black gas burrow into the ground. Compared to the venomous feathered monster, that strange black gas was more worrying. Moreover, that black gas contained an evil and powerful force. In other words, the venomous feathered monster was just a shell. This black gas was the source. However, if the source was not extinguished, this black gas would just need to find a shell and immediately become a mutated venomous feathered monster again. It was just that Tang Ao didn't say this. Even if Tang Ao said it, it would only cause panic and add to the troubles of these people. Compared to the black gas, Tang Ao couldn't deal with it. Naturally, the others couldn't do anything about it. Uncle Zhong, Deputy Union Master Lin Dongnan, has brought reinforcements. As they were talking, a martial artist not far away shouted excitedly. Hearing his words, Tang Ao and the others were delighted. Chapter 1249. Oh, brother Tang Ao arrived so quickly. Lin Dongnan had always been swift and decisive. Someone had just informed him of his arrival, and it did not take long for Lin Dongnan to arrive in front of Tang Ao and the others. I did not expect Brother Lin to arrive so quickly. Tang Ao smiled in a relaxed manner and did not get up. This was not the time for pleasantries. The most important thing was to quickly recover his combat strength. Lin Dongnan nodded and said, "Brothers, you have worked hard. Next, you will cover everyone to retreat to a safe place. Leave the demonic beasts in the village to us. Then I will have to trouble southeast." Although Zhong Shan's cultivation was far from Lin Dongnan's, the two of them still had a good relationship. After Zhong Shan finished speaking, he ordered everyone to lead the villagers to a safe place. Although Tang Ao had not fully recovered his lost elemental energy, he could move normally without any problems. After Zhong Shan and the others went around to rescue people, Tang Ao also rushed to the east of Qingyun village. Compared to the other three sides, the damage on the east side of the village was lighter. Thinking that the beast tide had come from the northwest side of the village, most of the people in Qingyun village had fled to the east side of the village. Even so, Tang Ao still saw many demonic beasts wreaking havoc on the east side of the village. If Lin Dongnan and the others did not come, Tang Ao could almost be sure that half of the people in Qingyun village could survive. This time was already a blessing in misfortune. Although his elemental energy had not fully recovered, since he saw the demonic beasts, there was naturally no room for negotiation. A silver brilliance flashed in Tang Ao's hand, and the 100 battle spear soul was released by Tang Ao. Not far from Tang Ao, a green demonic beast was tearing a corpse. At this moment, the corpse was badly mutilated, and it was obvious that this person had been dead for a long time. Even so, Tang Ao could still see that the fatal wound was on his back. In other words, this person was killed by a demonic beast's claw. Beside him, Tang Ao saw a haystack. His body was lying next to the haystack, as if he was protecting something. Thinking of this, Tang Ao immediately activated his sky polar pupils and examined the pile of straw. Then, Tang Ao shockingly discovered that there were two little girls, one big and one small, in this pile of thatch. The older girl was about 3 or 4 years old, and the younger one, Tang Ao felt, was less than a year old. Tang Ao felt a wave of sorrow in his heart. These two children were still so young, yet they had already lost their parents. Although Tang Ao was well aware of the cruelty of the world of martial arts, Tang Ao still couldn't help but sigh, lamenting the fact that the world of martial arts was too cruel. But at this time, Tang Ao had no time to feel sorry for the state of the universe. This was because the younger girl in the haystack had begun to cry, perhaps because she was hungry. The little girl's cries instantly attracted the attention of the gray-furred monster. Immediately, the gray-furred monster left the bloody corpse in its hands and slowly walked towards the haystack. The gray-furred monster's scarlet eyes were like 2 lanterns, and it looked extremely terrifying. Coupled with its evil appearance, if a timid person saw it, they would most likely be scared to death. At this moment, the little girl was so scared that she couldn't speak. She didn't even have an ounce of strength left in her body. Fortunately, at this time, a whistling sound came from midair. It was Tang Ao making his move. This gray-furred monster was also a body-refining realm tier 5 demonic beast, similar to Tang Ao's current cultivation. Chapter 1250. Tang Ao had been to many places in both his previous and current life. However, this was the first time that Tang Ao had come into contact with a place without any spiritual energy. Wherever there was spiritual energy, there might be some special beasts, but most of the common beasts could still be seen. However, in the Flying Star continent, Tang Ao had never seen any of the common beasts before. The beasts that Tang Ao had encountered were basically new beasts that Tang Ao had never seen before. The gray-furred monster in front of him was the same. Therefore, Tang Ao only threw out the 100 battles spear soul and tried to sweep it across the throat of the gray-furred monster. The sudden appearance of Tang Ao stunned the gray-furred monster. However, it did not take long before it let out an angry roar. Obviously, being attacked by a weak warrior like Tang Ao was a great humiliation to the gray-furred monster. In the eyes of the gray-furred monster, a weak human like Tang Ao was challenging its dignity. Therefore, after a few roars, the gray-furred monster immediately rushed toward Tang Ao on all fours, as if it wanted to use its huge body to smash Tang Ao to death. Seeing the gray-furred monster rushing toward him like a chariot, Tang Ao swung his hand and stabbed the 100 battles spear soul into the ground. Immediately, a golden light appeared on Tang Ao's body, and countless golden ancient runes jumped out. These golden runes quickly converged on the surface of Tang Ao's body, forming an incomparably mysterious pattern. Finally, the golden light condensed and turned into a golden armor. This layer of armor was very thin, but it revealed a formless toughness. After summoning the battle-sacred bone, Tang Ao did not retreat. Instead, he moved forward and punched the gray-furred monster fiercely. Boom! The yuan qi in the air surged. From the point where Tang Ao's fist collided with the gray-furred monster, the violent yuan qi created ripples in the space. The surrounding dust and pebbles were also sent flying by the terrifying impact. After the attack, the gray-furred monster didn't move at all. It just stood there and roared. However, the huge rebounding force sent Tang Ao flying. In midair, Tang Ao suddenly exerted his strength and took a few steps in the air to dispel this terrifying force. Tang Ao looked at the gray-furred monster in disbelief. The strength of the gray-furred monster's defense was beyond Tang Ao's imagination. If it were a normal warrior at the 5th stage of the body refinement realm, they would definitely explode and die on the spot if they dared to clash head-on with Tang Ao after he released the battle sage bone life soul. However, after the gray-furred monster exchanged a punch with Tang Ao, it didn't suffer any injuries. On the contrary, Tang Ao's wrist felt a little numb under the impact of that huge force. Although Tang Ao could rescue the two sisters from the haystack and escape with them, Tang Ao was unable to do so. However, if Tang Ao did so, the gray-furred monster would definitely go to other places to slaughter the villagers. Among the warriors that Lin Dongnan had brought, other than Lin Dongnan, who had the strongest cultivation, who was at the 9th stage of the body refinement realm, the other warriors were only at the 6th stage of the body refinement realm. Tang Ao didn't believe that the gray-furred monster, which he found difficult to deal with, could be dealt with by those at the 6th stage of the body refinement realm. Furthermore, according to the previous arrangements, those people were heading to the northwest of the village to resist the beast tide. At this moment, the rescuers in the village were basically warriors at the 4th stage of the body refinement realm. If these people encountered the gray-furred monster, they might not even have the chance to escape if they didn't escape in time. Chapter 1251. The cold wind howled, and the area that had been covered in thick smoke and raging flames was now filled with a cold breeze. The gray-furred monster didn't know what Tang Ao was doing. At that moment it only had one thought in its mind, and that was to tear this human who had offended it to shreds. So even though the surrounding cold air made the gray-furred monster very uncomfortable, after it roared, it opened its huge mouth, and a huge gray ball of light shot towards Tang Ao. The speed of the ball of light was extremely shocking, and the terrifying aura on the ball of light also indicated that it could reap lives at any time. After seeing this ball of light, Tang Ao's expression also became serious. At the same time, Tang Ao was also a little shocked, because this ball of light was completely formed by compressed primordial qi. Just now, Tang Ao didn't see this gray-furred monster compressing primordial qi. In other words, the gray-furred monster could instantly compress such a large amount of primordial qi. Tang Ao guessed that this should be one of the gray-furred monster's talents. However, Tang Ao was still secretly shocked. Although the gray-furred monster didn't look very good, the amount and purity of the primordial qi in its body was extremely terrifying. If one did not have enough essence qi, or if one's essence qi was not pure enough, it would be impossible to instantly spit out such a ball of light. In the blink of an eye, the gray ball of light whizzed in front of Tang Ao. Taking a deep breath, the snow pattern in Tang Ao's eyes suddenly spun, changing into a new seal. Immediately, countless fine ice crystals appeared out of nowhere in the surrounding space, covering the gray ball of light. At that moment, the gray ball of light seemed to have an infinite attraction force, and the fine ice crystals in all directions were attracted by it, continuously gathering towards the gray ball of light. Finally, when the gray ball of light rushed in front of Tang Ao, it was already frozen into a ball of ice by the sky polar eye. The corner of Tang Ao's mouth curved into a playful smile, and then the gray-furred monster was shocked to see that the ball of light it spat out actually flew back the way it came. The gray-furred monster was scared out of its wits. It couldn't be any more aware of how powerful its attack was. Therefore, the gray-furred monster stomped heavily on the ground, and then immediately rose up. The moment the gray-haired monster jumped, the ice ball also arrived under it. Tang Ao snapped his fingers and the ice hockey ball exploded. At this moment, it was as if an ice storm had swept through this space. Countless ice crystals wreaked havoc, and the surrounding ground and walls were instantly frozen. This scene was far beyond Tang Ao's expectations. Tang Ao didn't expect that his playful actions would cause such great damage. Tang Ao was not exaggerating when he said that it was destroyed. After a few cracking sounds, the frozen houses and the surrounding vegetation were all shattered into a pile of ice. Even so, Tang Ao was still unable to break through the monster's terrifying defense. Although this unexpected attack froze the gray-furred monster into a huge block of ice, it still didn't hurt it. Instead, it angered it even more. Roar! The gray-furred monster suddenly roared from within the block of ice, and then Tang Ao saw traces of cracks appear on the ice. Tang Ao immediately raised his hand, and a gust of cold wind instantly appeared around the ice, about to freeze it again. However, Tang Ao still underestimated the gray-furred monster's damage. With a bang, the block of ice that sealed the gray-furred monster shattered into ice shards that filled the sky. Chapter 1252. At this time, if he wanted to kill the gray-furred monster, Tang Ao still had many methods. However, these methods all had their limit. For example, the lightning fall formation he used against the three-tailed blood civet on the boat could definitely blast the gray-furred monster into pieces. However, Tang Ao clearly didn't have the time to set up the formation. Moreover, the gray-furred monster wasn't slow. Once it sensed danger, it would very likely flee. Other than the lightning fall formation, summoning Underworld's Netherworld Sword Chi could also kill the gray-furred monster. However, summoning Underworld's Netherworld Sword Chi consumed a lot of Tang Ao's energy. With Tang Ao's current state, if he summoned Netherworld Sword Chi again, Tang Ao would immediately collapse. Therefore, unless he was facing a life and death crisis, Tang Ao didn't want to summon Netherworld Sword Chi again. The Hidden Dragon Cave wasn't a good place. There was danger everywhere. Losing the ability to fight in this place was a very scary thing. Without the ability to fight back, this meant that anyone here could easily kill you. With the previous encounter with the Yuan cultivating pill, Tang Ao felt that this worry wasn't unnecessary. After he lost the ability to fight, there would definitely be a large group of people coming to ask for Yuan cultivating pills. Other than the lightning fall formation and Netherworld Sword Chi, Tang Ao had many other methods. For example, he could use the Primordial Sacred Heavenly Bow. The Primordial Sacred Heavenly Bow was an immortal artifact. Although Tang Ao had yet to fully refine the seals on the Primordial Sacred Heavenly Bow, using it to kill off the gray-furred monster was more than enough. However, Tang Ao was a bit doubtful that he could pull the primordial sacred heavenly bow in his current state. Just as Tang Ao was thinking, another beast roar came from afar. This beast roar was very familiar to Tang Ao. It was the gray-furred monster's roar. Tang Ao sent out his soul remembrance, and indeed saw a group of martial artists and another gray-furred monster fighting as they escaped towards this place. Seeing this scene, Tang Ao couldn't help but bitterly smile. These people could have escaped anywhere, but they just had to escape to this place. Luckily, there was a body refining realm's 6th level martial artist who was slightly stronger. Although he could not kill the gray-furred monster, under his control, the gray-furred monster could not severely injure the others. "Miss, it's not good. There's also a gray-furred monster here." After a few people sneaked over, a sharp-eyed warrior immediately discovered the situation. The gray-furred monster that was chasing after Tang Ao also saw the gray-furred monster opposite Tang Ao. Immediately, the gray-furred monster howled a few times into the sky, as if it was communicating with something. After the gray-furred monster received the message, it immediately ignored Tang Ao and charged towards the group of people. This scene caused Tang Ao to be astonished. However, Tang Ao still used his heavenly extreme pupils to investigate the group of people. Immediately, Tang Ao discovered that in the middle of the group of people was a rather pretty young girl. At this moment, the young girl was holding a chubby little demon beast. The instant he saw this demon beast, Tang Ao was secretly shocked because Tang Ao recognized this demon beast. It was an extremely rare frost snow dog. At this moment, the frost snow dog was sleeping soundly in the young girl's arms, not at all aware of the situation in the outside world. After thinking for a moment, Tang Ao understood that these massive gray-furred monsters were clearly protecting the frost snow dog. Now that the frost snow dog's young had been stolen, the gray-furred monster had chased after it. Thinking about this, Tang Ao even began to suspect that this group of people had caused the beast tide this time. Because this group of people had stolen the frost snow dog's young from Evergreen Valley, the Long Green Valley's demonic beasts had gone berserk. As Tang Ao was thinking about this, the body refining realm's 6th level martial artist among the group of people said to Tang Ao, "Brother, we are from the Fog Moon Union. We can be considered friends with your Qing Yun Union. Moreover, this is Qing Yun Union's territory. Why don't you summon the elites of the Qing Yun Union, and we can work together to kill this gray-furred monster?" Chapter 1253. If it was anyone else, they might have already fallen for it. However, Tang Ao's mind was very sharp. It was impossible for Tang Ao to be fooled by such a simple trick. After thinking for a moment, Tang Ao said bitterly, "The base of our Qing Yun Union has also been attacked by a beast wave. All the experts of the Qing Yun Union are there. Even if we send a message now, it will take a long time for them to arrive." There were 9 people in this group from the Misty Moon Union. Apart from the 6th level body refining realm martial artist, the others were all at the 5th level. Just now, they had only dealt with one gray-furred monster with ease. If they didn't care about their own injuries, it wasn't impossible for them to kill that gray-furred monster with all their strength. But now that there was another gray-furred monster, the 9 of them didn't have the strength to deal with it. "Elder Wang, what do we do now? If the Qing Yun Union doesn't have any experts coming to support us, then there's no point in us escaping to Qing Yun Village," Ning Lanlan said anxiously after hearing Tang Ao's words. Although Ning Lanlan looked like an innocent girl, she clearly wasn't as pure and kind as a girl. Even at this moment, Ning Lanlan was thinking about how to escape the pursuit of the gray-furred monster. She didn't consider at all what kind of disaster they would bring to Qing Yun Village by attracting the gray-furred monster to this village. After Ning Lanlan asked, Elder Wang was silent for a moment. But after thinking for a moment, Elder Wang's eyes suddenly flashed and he said, "Don't listen to this kid's lies. Qingyun Village is the only village in the Qingyun Union. Many of the martial artists of the Qingyun Union who can no longer fight and those who can't cultivate are arranged here. And with just the strength of the martial artists left behind in Qingyun Village, it's impossible for them to last so long under the beast wave. The Qingyun Union definitely has experts coming, but they're not here right now. Then why did this person say that the Qingyun Union didn't have experts coming? Ning Lanlan's eyes flashed and she looked coldly at Tang Ao. Humph. Elder Wang laughed coldly and then said, "This kid is quite sharp. I think he probably guessed that we intentionally lured the gray-furred monster here. We'll fight the gray-furred monster here and wait for a chance to kill this kid. Otherwise, if this gets out, there will be no room for reconciliation between us and the Qingyun Union." Although Tang Ao didn't know what Ning Lanlan and the others were talking about, Tang Ao could guess what they were planning. Sure enough, after discussing with Ning Lanlan, Wang Hongyi shouted at Tang Ao, "Little brother, our Misty Moon Union and Qingyun Union have always been on good terms. This time, when Qingyun Village encountered the beast tide, we are also duty-bound. Since we happened to pass by and saw it, we'll help our friends from the Qingyun Union to resist the beast wave." Hearing Wang Hongyi's words, Tang Ao sneered in his heart. The beast wave this time was most likely related to Wang Hongyi and the others, but now Wang Hongyi said that he would help Qingyun Village resist the beast wave. Moreover, Tang Ao could see that the gray-furred monster was chasing after Wang Hongyi and the others because of the frost snow dog. Therefore, if Wang Hongyi and others left Qingyun Village at this time, other monster beasts might not be able to say, but the gray-haired monster would definitely chase after them. When Tang Ao saw that Wang Hongyi and the others had no intention of leaving, he knew that he was in danger. Just now, Tang Ao had already said everything, but they still didn't leave. This meant that Wang Hongyi also saw that Tang Ao was lying and knew that Tang Ao knew the reason for the beast wave. Chapter 1254. I'm Wuhan. How should I address you, friend? The person who walked towards Tang Ao was a handsome young man with oily hair and a powdered face. If not for the fact that his aura was too feminine, his appearance would have been very handsome. However, his aura was very chaotic, and it exuded a sinister aura. Before one even got close, one would feel uncomfortable. "Brother Wuhan, why aren't you helping to deal with the gray-furred monster? Why are you looking for this Tang?" Although Tang Ao knew that this person wasn't friendly, he had no intention of striking first. Wuhan was at the peak of the 5th level of the body refining realm, while Tang Ao was only at the initial stage of the 5th level of the body refining realm. However, Tang Ao really didn't think much of this Wuhan. "I wouldn't dare to give you pointers. Wuhan is here to exchange a few moves with Brother Tang." Wuhan could tell that Tang Ao was very weak at this moment. Therefore, Wuhan pondered for a moment before asking, "If I'm not wrong, the person who blocked the gray-furred monster just now was Brother Tang Ao." Brother Tang Ao was able to fight with the gray-furred monster head-on at the initial stage of the 5th level of the body refining realm. Impressive, impressive. As Wuhan spoke, he raised both his hands and cupped his fists towards Tang Ao. However, at the instant he raised both his hands, Wuhan pulled out 2 flexible swords from his sleeves and thrust them towards Tang Ao's heart and throat. At such a close distance, if it was someone else, they would definitely have fallen for Wuhan's trick. In fact, Wuhan had indeed killed countless martial artists with the sword in his sleeve. Some of these martial artists were nameless, while others were powerful martial artists who had been famous for a long time. There were many who were weaker than Wuhan, but there were also many who were stronger than him. Until now, Wuhan had yet to meet someone who could dodge his sleeves. Not only were his sleeves unexpected, but they were also unpredictable and incomparably fast. With just a sword hum, Tang Ao felt a pain in his chest and throat at the same time. However, Tang Ao's throat and chest only had a faint trail of blood. Of course, this wasn't because Wu Han didn't wish to kill Tang Ao, but because the two swords in Wu Han's hands had been blocked by Tang Ao's battle sage Bone Life Soul. It wasn't that Wu Han didn't think that there would be a day when his sleeve sword would fail. It was just that Wu Han didn't expect such a situation to occur. In that instant, his sleeve sword had already struck Tang Ao. However, after leaving a faint bloody mark on Tang Ao's body, it was blocked by the battle sage Bone Life Soul that suddenly appeared on Tang Ao's body. After his attack missed, Wu Han immediately leaped into the air and retreated to a place that was 3 feet away from Tang Ao. So far, a total of 1,979 martial artists have died under my sleeve sword. Tang Ao was lucky and did not become one of the 1,980. But even so, brother Tang Ao will most likely have to stay here today. Although Tang Ao's battle sage Bone Life Soul had exceeded Wu Han's expectations, Wu Han seemed to be very confident in his own strength. Tang Ao had always felt that Wu Han was very sinister. After hearing Wu Han's words, Tang Ao only gave a faint smile. However, Tang Ao soon realized that there wasn't much to it. Wu Han's two swords seemed to have some kind of poison on them. At that moment, Tang Ao's vision was a little blurry. I see. Just now, Tang Ao was still wondering why Wu Han was so confident. Now that he realized that he had been poisoned, Tang Ao also understood where Wu Han's confidence came from. However, according to Tang Ao's thoughts, although there were many times when it came to using poison to achieve a surprising victory, it was a sign of a warrior's lack of confidence in their own strength if they smeared poison on their weapons. Chapter 1255. The illusory flower poison needed to accumulate in a warrior's body continuously. Once it accumulated to a sufficient amount, it could cause a warrior to hallucinate. However, the poison on Wu Han's flexible sword was different. Once it entered the bloodstream, a warrior would instantly be affected. After being poisoned, they would immediately see hallucinations and their consciousness would gradually turn blurry. The most terrifying thing was that the illusory flower poison could be expended using essence. No matter how deeply poisoned one could use essence to neutralize the illusory flower poison. However, Wu Han's poison could not do so. If not for Tang Ao possessing the Jade Bone Life Soul, he might have really died in Wu Han's hands. Furthermore, even if Tang Ao possessed the Jade Bone Life Soul, Tang Ao's current condition was not optimistic. Due to the consecutive battles with the poison-feathered monster and the gray-furred monster, Tang Ao did not have much essence left in his body. Furthermore, Tang Ao did not dare to use all his remaining essence to activate the Jade Bone Life Soul. This was because Wu Han was still eyeing him covetously. After pondering for a moment, Tang Ao chuckled. Brother Wu Han's poison is indeed powerful. I shall take my leave. After saying that, Tang Ao leaped and fled into the distance. How could Wu Han let Tang Ao go? Hence, after Tang Ao fled, Wu Han chased after him without a second thought. Now that Tang Ao had been poisoned by his illusory flower poison, he was at his weakest. If what he said was right, then Tang Ao was a warrior who could contend with the gray-furred monster. He had to take advantage of such a powerful opponent while he was down to take his life. Otherwise, once Tang Ao recovered, it would be hard to say who would emerge victorious. Furthermore, under normal circumstances, after being poisoned by his illusory flower poison, a warrior would immediately experience dizziness and lose their ability to fight. However, not only did Tang Ao not lose his ability to fight, he did not even show any abnormalities. If Tang Ao had not been in a hurry to escape, Wu Han would have suspected that Tang Ao had not been poisoned at all. But now, although Wu Han was sure that Tang Ao was poisoned, Tang Ao still acted as if he wasn't poisoned. There was no sign of poisoning on Tang Ao's body. Tang Ao had been imprisoned in the hidden dragon crypt for some time, but Tang Ao still didn't expect the area of the hidden dragon crypt to be so large. Since he was running for his life, Tang Ao didn't choose the path he was familiar with. Instead, he ran and flew randomly. But even so, Tang Ao had been running for half an hour, but there was still nothing in front of him, as if there was no end. The poison is almost neutralized. After arriving in front of another dense forest, Tang Ao suddenly stopped. After Tang Ao's external injuries recovered, the 9 dragon Thearka's jade body constantly absorbed the surrounding primordial energy to carry out the spiritual cycle. Along the way, the poison in Tang Ao's body had been completely refined by the jade bone vitality life soul. The primordial energy that Tang Ao had expended had basically been replenished. At that moment, although Tang Ao wasn't at his peak, it shouldn't be a problem for him to deal with Wu Han. However, just as Tang Ao stopped in the dense forest, a figure happened to walk out of it. Upon seeing this person, Tang Ao's expression turned cold. Tang Ming. Tang Ao was slightly alarmed when he saw Tang Ao. The last time he tried to sneak an attack on Qi Yang, he had failed and ended up getting himself into trouble. During this period of time, he had been pursued by the lunatic Qi Yang. He had no choice but to leave Qin Yun's encampment and come to this place. If it weren't for the monthly cultivation resources, Tang Ming wouldn't have bothered coming out. To Tang Ming's surprise, he saw Tang Ao the moment he came out. "How did you find this place?" "No, you must have been chased by someone and fled here." Chapter 1256. Brother Tang Ming, you are here too? After seeing Tang Ming, Wu Han's face lit up. Just now, Tang Ao had taken the initiative to stop and wait for him. Back then, Wu Han had been hesitating on whether or not he should fight Tang Ao. Now, however, after seeing Tang Ming, Wu Han's mood became much better. The warriors in the hidden dragon caves were people who wouldn't get up unless there were benefit. This was especially true for Tang Ming. As long as they gave him enough benefits, it wouldn't be difficult for Tang Ming to pretend he didn't see anything. "Brother Wu Han, are you chasing after this person?" "This person stole 5 bottles of middle-grade vitality-augmenting pills from me a few days ago. I will help you capture this person, but I will have to take back the vitality-augmenting pills he has," Tang Ming said to Wu Han after glancing at Tang Ao. Wu Han was just thinking about how to make Tang Ming stand by and watch. He didn't expect that Tang Ming would not just stand by and watch. Instead, he was prepared to help. Wu Han was overjoyed. As for the vitality-augmenting pills on Tang Ao, Wu Han only thought about it for a moment before he gave up on the idea. As long as he could bring the Frost Snow Dog back to let it bleed, he would have plenty of vitality-augmenting pills. Before bringing the Frost Snow Dog back to the Misty Moon Alliance, it was most important that nothing went wrong. Tang Ao knew the reason for the beast tide and saw the Frost Snow Dog. Therefore, Tang Ao had to die. After coming to an agreement with Wu Han, Tang Ming looked at Tang Ao and said indifferently, "Tang Ao, we are both members of the Qin Yun Alliance. I won't make things difficult for you. Just end your own life." His eyes were cold and devoid of any anger. It was as if the moment he said that, Tang Ao was already a dead man. "Are you very confident?" Tang Ao didn't get angry at Tang Ming's cold words. Instead, he asked in a relaxed manner. His tone was gentle, as if he was talking to a friend. "I shouldn't be confident?" Tang Ming took out a folding fan. This folding fan was his weapon. He had used this folding fan to sneak attack Qi Yang previously. "It doesn't seem good to be too confident." Tang Ao's expression was still very relaxed, and there was even a hint of boredom in this relaxed expression. After sensing Tang Ao's emotions, Tang Ming fell silent. After a while, he suddenly raised his head and said, "Since that's the case, I'll show you my confidence. Let's see who else will save you this time." "I don't know who will save me, but I do know that no one can save you this time." Tang Ao had long placed Tang Ming on his must-kill list. During the duel between Su Myun and Qi Yang, Tang Ming had ambushed Qi Yang at a crucial moment. If Su Myun had not stepped in to save him, Qi Yang would have died a long time ago. After Su Myun tried to save him, Su Myun was also severely injured by Qi Yang. In addition to the matter of Tang Ming trying to snatch the essence-cultivating pill from him at the beginning and helping an outsider deal with him this time, Tang Ming had already offended Tang Ao 3 times. The first 2 times, Tang Ao had not recovered from his serious injuries and could not do anything to him. However, this time, it was probably impossible for Tang Ming to leave even if he wanted to. When Tang Ming took the initiative to attack, the aura on Tang Ao's body also suddenly changed. The aura on Tang Ao's body, which had been extremely weak earlier, instantly surged. In an instant, the aura on Tang Ao's body reached the early stage of the 5th stage of the body refining realm. Although it was only the early stage of the 5th stage of the body refining realm, it gave off a very special feeling. Tang Ming and Wu Han had seen many martial artists at the 5th stage of the body refining realm. In fact, they had even come from this level themselves. Therefore, they could sense that the aura on Tang Ao's body was very thick and smooth. Chapter 1257. The edge of the folding fan was thinner than the blade, but it was also sharper than the blade. Before the folding fan reached Tang Ao, a sharp aura gushed over. A lock of Tang Ao's long hair was cut off by this sharp aura. At first, Wu Han thought that Tang Ming was up to something. Now that he saw Tang Ming mercilessly attacking with all his might, Wu Han felt at ease. However, Wu Han had another thought in his mind. How many essence-fostering pills did Tang Ao have? Otherwise, why would Tang Ming be so anxious to kill Tang Ao? In reality, Wu Han was wrong this time. Right now, Tang Ming had been chased by Qi Yang for too long and had nowhere to vent his anger. Therefore, he vented it on Tang Ao. However, Tang Ming's reputation had made Wu Han certain that Tang Ming was someone who wouldn't do anything without benefits. Therefore, while Wu Han was attacking, he was also secretly paying attention to Tang Ming. Although Tang Ao was a little strange, in Wu Han's opinion, Tang Ao was much easier to deal with than Tang Ming. Therefore, when he had the chance, he had to take down Tang Ming at the first instant. Moreover, Tang Ming had been in the dragon subduing cave for quite some time and was very cunning. As long as Wu Han could kill Tang Ming, he would definitely be satisfied with the good stuff on Tang Ming. At the thought of this, Wu Han's 2 swords became even more arrogant. Wu Han's sword technique was strange to begin with. Now that Wu Han's attacks were completely out of the ordinary, Tang Ming looked even stranger. However, Tang Ming was clearly overwhelmed by anger. Otherwise, he would have been able to understand Wu Han's thoughts even if he couldn't see through them. Facing the attacks of the two, Tang Ao was also at a loss. Tang Ming was getting more and more anxious as he fought. It was as though he couldn't wait to end his life. Meanwhile, Wu Han's 2 swords were getting more and more chaotic. It was as though the more chaotic his sword technique was, the stronger it was. Even so, it was still a little strenuous for Tang Ao to face the 2 of them at the same time. After all, Tang Ao's current cultivation was only at the beginning stage of the 5th stage of the body refining realm. Meanwhile, these 2 fellas were at the peak of the 5th stage of the body refining realm. Ha ha, since the 3 of you are fighting so excitedly, let me join in too. While the 3 of them were fighting, Hai Fuyuan's voice suddenly traveled over from afar. Immediately, Tang Ao felt a gust of wind. Tang Ao swept out with his sole remembrance, and found that Hai Fuyuan had indeed sent a kick towards his back. Before the kick even reached him, the wind from the kick caused Tang Ao to feel a chill. However, Tang Ao remained unfazed. The 100-battle spear in his hand danced as he continued to block Wu Han and Tang Ming's swift attacks. Hai Fuyuan was secretly puzzled, but he still had no intention of withdrawing. In the blink of an eye, Hai Fuyuan's incomparably tyrannical leg had already arrived behind Tang Ao and was about to break Tang Ao's bones. But at this moment, Tang Ao, who was motionless a moment ago, suddenly lowered his body and held the spear in his hand horizontally across his back. Tang Ming's fan hit empty air, while Wu Han's two swords slashed onto Tang Ao's spear. However, Hai Fuyuan's ferocious kick landed squarely on Tang Ming's chest. Tang Ming wasn't prepared for this kick and was sent flying by Hai Fuyuan. "Brother Tang Ming, this is a misunderstanding," Hai Fuyuan immediately explained when he saw this. However, after Tang Ming was kicked, he was twitching on the ground. Occasionally, he would spit out a mouthful of blood. This shocked Hai Fuyuan. His abilities were about the same as Tang Ming's. Even if Tang Ming wasn't prepared, he wouldn't end up like this after eating his kick. Chapter 1258. That's not right. After scanning with his soul remembrance, Tang Ao shockingly discovered that Tang Ming's aura was rapidly changing. Currently, Tang Ao's aura was very strange. Tang Ming's skin had also turned blood red. It was as if the blood under Tang Ming's skin was burning. At the same time, Tang Ming's cultivation was rapidly rising. Seeing this, Hai Fuyuan exclaimed, "Evil blood technique! You actually cultivated the evil blood technique." Hearing the term evil blood technique, Tang Ao was very unfamiliar. Tang Ao had never heard of such a technique before. However, seeing Hai Fuyuan's terrified expression, this evil blood technique was clearly a very sinister and vicious technique. Otherwise, Hai Fuyuan wouldn't be so afraid. At this time, Tang Ming also slowly sat up. However, Tang Ao no longer looked like a human. His entire being was like a monster. Tang Ming's entire body was crimson red. His skin was the color of fresh blood. His originally smooth black hair was now like a bunch of lifeless grayish-white withered grass. On top of Tang Ming's head, a bunch of malevolent curved horns grew. Tang Ming's pupils also underwent a huge change. His originally black pupils had completely turned blood red. Fresh blood would occasionally flow out of his eyes and flow down his cheeks. It looked very horrifying. Tang Ming's mouth also protruded with two long and narrow fangs. His entire being had turned into a monster. Moreover, this wasn't the end. Tang Ming's hands were still transforming under the gaze of Tang Ao and the others. In an instant, his hands had turned into a pair of scarlet claws. Even his feet had quickly transformed into the bony claws of a wild beast. "Jia jia jia, you guys have all seen it." As Tang Ao and the others watched Tang Ming, the transformed Tang Ming let out an ear-piercing laugh. His voice had become sharp and piercing. It was like the sound of nails rubbing against rusty metal. This sound was unforgettable after just hearing it once. No one wanted to hear it again. "Brother Tang Ming, this matter has nothing to do with me. I'll be leaving first." Feeling Tang Ming's powerful aura at the peak of the 7th stage of the body refining realm, Hai Fuyuan's voice trembled as he spoke. "Hai Fatty Z, you should stay." Tang Ming spat out a stream of fiery breath from his mouth. After transforming into this state that was neither a human nor a ghost, Tang Ming's speech became somewhat unclear. Although he couldn't speak clearly, his tone was frightening enough. "The three of us should work together. Cultivating the evil blood technique in the Crouching Dragon Cave is the #1 taboo. The three of us have seen his secret. You definitely think that he will let us leave." Seeing Tang Ming execute the evil blood technique's secret technique, Wu Han's eyes burned with passion. However, Wu Han still suppressed the intense throbbing in his heart and said to Tang Ao and Hai Fuyuan with an unusually calm expression. Tang Ao didn't notice the change in Wu Han's expression, but Tang Ao also knew that Wu Han was right. This kind of secret technique that could allow one's cultivation to skyrocket in an instant would definitely come at a great price. Tang Ao guessed that Tang Ming definitely hadn't completely mastered this secret technique. Therefore, when he was attacked just now, he had unconsciously released this secret technique. Brother Tang Ming, if you are willing to let me go, I will leave now. I guarantee that I won't tell anyone about this. Even at this moment, Hai Fuyuan didn't have the same boldness as Tang Ao and Wu Han. Martial artists who cultivated the evil blood technique were invincible within the same realm. Chapter 1259. Bam! Tang Ming didn't say a word. His primordial energy surged as the surrounding wind howled. Following that, Tang Ming pounced at Tang Ao like a ferocious tiger leaping into a ravine. After using the evil blood technique, Tang Ming's mind was no longer clear. Even so, Tang Ao was still the person he wanted to kill the most. Against Tang Ming's attack, Tang Ao didn't dare be careless. With a thought, 4 pitch-black chains appeared out of thin air behind Tang Ao. Under Tang Ao's control, the 4 chains trembled and smashed at Tang Ming. The 4 chains were none other than Tang Ao's 10,000 Ghosts lock. However, this time, Tang Ao didn't completely summon the 10,000 Ghosts lock from the underworld. He only summoned a portion of it. Ever since Tang Ao used the 10,000 Ghosts lock to subdue the poison plume, Tang Ao realized that the aura of the underworld seemed to be able to nurture the 10,000 Ghosts lock. Therefore, Tang Ao sent the 10,000 Ghosts lock into the underworld to nurture it. At that moment, Tang Ao summoned the 10,000 Ghosts lock from the underworld. Tang Ao could clearly sense that the 10,000 Ghosts lock didn't need to expend his primordial energy at all. Furthermore, the 10,000 Ghosts lock's might was much stronger than before. Tang Ao could even sense that the 10,000 Ghosts lock had already recovered to its peak state. However, due to the limitations of his cultivation level, he was unable to unleash its full strength. In other words, among Tang Ao's many life souls, the strongest life soul wasn't the 29 firmament life souls, but the 21 firmament 10,000 Ghosts lock. As the other life souls were closely connected to Tang Ao's soul sea, now that Tang Ao's soul sea was damaged, these life souls were also extremely weak. Just like the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul, the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul's grade had already reached the 29th firmament, but due to Tang Ao's damaged soul sea, the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul could only produce strength at the 9th firmament. If the Battle Saint Bone Life Soul could exert its peak strength, Tang Ao would only need to hide inside the Battle Saint Bone Life Soul. Even if all the warriors of the Flying Star continent lined up to fight for hundreds of years, they would not be able to do anything to Tang Ao. Now, Tang Ao was really looking forward to placing the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul in the underworld to nourish it. He just didn't know if the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul could be placed in the underworld like the Myriad Ghosts Soul Lock. When Tang Ming made a move against Tang Ao, Wu Han really made a move. At the instant Tang Ming was restrained by Tang Ao's Myriad Ghosts Soul Lock, Wu Han took the opportunity to flash behind Tang Ming. Following that, the 2 swords in his hands stabbed at Tang Ming's back with extreme ferocity. However, after Tang Ming mutated into a monster, his body was covered in WRM-like scales. Therefore, the 2 swords in Wu Han's hands only produced a series of sparks behind Tang Ming's back. They didn't cause any substantial damage to Tang Ming. Hai Fuyuan had been clamoring to leave, but when he really made a move, he didn't dawdle at all. Almost at the instant Wu Han made a move, a gigantic axe that was half the height of a person appeared in Hai Fuyuan's hands. After Hai Fuyuan swung the gigantic axe in a circular motion, he slashed at Tang Ming's left leg. Although he didn't manage to cleave off Tang Ao's left leg, it left a bloody wound on it, causing Tang Ming to cry out in pain. Upon seeing this scene, Tang Ao's eyes narrowed as he activated Sky Polarity Eyes and probed Hai Fuyuan's gigantic axe. With just a glance, Tang Ao sighed inwardly. Fatty Hai's luck was really not bad. Right now, the ordinary-looking gigantic axe in Hai Fuyuan's hands was impressively a broken immortal artifact. However, Fatty Hai was very cunning. After discovering the extraordinariness of the broken axe, Fatty Hai had reforged the gigantic axe. Chapter 1260. Roar! After his thigh was cut by Fatty Hai's axe, Tang Ming roared to the sky. He struggled violently. Although Tang Ao's Thousand Ghosts lock was powerful, Tang Ao was only at body refining realm level 5. The difference between them was too great. Hence, under Tang Ming's intense struggle, the Thousand Ghosts lock was gradually broken. "If the two of you don't show me your true abilities, I'm leaving," Fatty Hai shouted immediately after seeing Tang Ming break free from Tang Ao's Thousand Ghosts lock. After hearing Fatty Hai's words, Tang Ao lamented in his heart. Fatty Hai hadn't even used his full strength, yet he was blaming Wu Han and himself. However, Tang Ao was still a little suspicious. Wu Han and Tang Ming shouldn't have any deep hatred before, but after Tang Ming transformed, Wu Han seemed to be very excited. In the battle just now, Tang Ao had used 50% of his strength. Fatty Hai had also used almost 50% of his strength. However, Wu Han had used at least 70% of his strength. It was just like when they fought not long ago, except that Wu Han had to kill him. Now, he clearly had no reason to fight Tang Ming to the death. Although he was suspicious, Tang Ao didn't dare to be careless against Tang Ming, who had used the evil blood technique. Moreover, the evil blood technique was listed as the number 1 taboo in the Hidden Dragon Crypt. After Tang Ming broke free from the Thousand Ghosts lock, Tang Ao didn't plan to use the Thousand Ghosts lock to trap Tang Ming again. With a thought, the Green Lotus Sword Soul appeared behind Tang Ao. At this moment, Tang Ming was too violent. His attacks were also very overbearing. Right now, Tang Ao was only at the early stage of the 5th stage of the body refining realm. Fighting Tang Ming, who was at the peak of the 7th stage of the body refining realm, head-on was clearly very irrational and dangerous. Therefore, Tang Ao decided to use the Green Lotus Sword Soul to fight Tang Ming. Tang Ao thought for a while. Among the techniques he could use now, only the Netherworld Sword Chi and the Primordial Sacred Heavenly Bow could injure Tang Ming. But whether it was the Primordial Sacred Sky Bow or the Netherworld Sword, they were not things that Tang Ao could afford right now. After using it, Tang Ao's essence would be instantly drained. He would not be able to fight for a short period of time. Right now, Hai Fuyuan and Wu Han, who were fighting alongside Tang Ao, were not Tang Ao's friends. In fact, they were enemies. They had only joined forces temporarily to deal with Tang Ming, who was too evil and powerful. In this kind of situation, Tang Ao really did not dare to use the Primordial Sacred Heavenly Bow and the Netherworld Sword. Roar! 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 As time passed, Tang Ming's eyes became increasingly bloodshot, and he became increasingly berserk. Tang Ao controlled the Green Lotus Sword Soul, wanting to pierce Tang Ming's eyes. At that moment, Tang Ao's body was covered in a layer of hard scales. Earlier, Tang Ao's attacks had been ineffective. Thus, Tang Ao had targeted the weakest part of Tang Ming's body. Although Tang Ming had lost his rationality, he still possessed the instincts of a wild beast. Every time Tang Ao's Green Lotus sword pierced towards his eyes, Tang Ming would always be able to dodge. Even if he could not dodge, he would raise his arm to block. At that moment, the Green Lotus sword's might was less than 10%. In addition, the scales on Tang Ming's body were incomparably thick. When Tang Ao's Green Lotus sword struck Tang Ming's arm, it was completely ineffective. Moreover, Tang Ao realized that Tang Ming's aura was no longer as chaotic as before. Chapter 1261. In the instant that Tang Ao dodged, a scarlet sharp claw swiped at Tang Ao. In an instant, an evil gust of wind blew and blood surged. Although Tang Ao had dodged in advance, he could only watch as Tang Ming's ferocious sharp claw slammed into his chest. Poochie! Tang Ao spat out a mouthful of blood. He was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. The towering trees behind Tang Ao were smashed and broken by Tang Ao. Only then did Tang Ao release the terrifying force from his body. Although Tang Ao had summoned the battle sage Bone Life Soul to protect himself, Tang Ao still felt as if his internal organs were on fire. His entire body was scorching hot. Tang Ming's attack just now had clearly injured Tang Ao badly. When Hai Fuyuan saw that Tang Ao was injured, his fat body actually climbed up with abnormal agility. Without saying anything, he took huge strides and escaped into the forest. Although he had a sturdy body, he wasn't slow when escaping. If he didn't use the wind thunder dark cloud, Tang Ao felt that he might not be able to catch up to Fatty Hai. After watching for a while, Tang Ao realized that something was wrong. Or rather, it wasn't that Fatty Hai's speed was too fast, but that the straw sandals on his feet were unusual. Although that pair of straw sandals wasn't an immortal artifact, it was a broken grade 4 spiritual artifact. Seeing this, Tang Ao was a little speechless. This Fatty Hai's weapon was a broken immortal artifact, and his shoes were a broken grade 4 spiritual artifact. Why did he look like a trash collector? However, Tang Ao's gaze didn't linger on Fatty Hai for long. After Fatty Hai escaped and Tang Ao was injured, Wu Han and Tang Ming became a one-on-one battle. At this time, Tang Ao was surprised to discover that Wu Han's aura had unknowingly risen to the pinnacle of the body refining realm level 6. Although he was still a small level lower than Tang Ming, he was able to contend with Tang Ming with his abnormal agility. However, for some reason, Tang Ao saw that Wu Han's blood qi was surging. He didn't know if he had used some secret technique or something had happened. However, at this time, Tang Ao saw Wu Han taking out a handful of silver powder. The instant Tang Ming dashed toward him, Wu Han scattered the silver powder with a wave of his hand and fled in another direction. Tang Ming, who had rushed towards Wu Han, seemed to be subconsciously afraid of the silver powder and didn't dare to chase after Wu Han anymore. When Tang Ao saw this, he did not dare to stay any longer. He reached out and grabbed a handful of the silver powder floating in the air. Then, he immediately fled in another direction. However, it was already too late for Tang Ao. Fatty Hai had already disappeared. Tang Ming obviously wouldn't chase after him. Although Tang Ming had lost his rationality after mutating, Tang Ming seemed to be instinctively afraid of this kind of thing. Hence, Tang Ming didn't dare to chase after Wu Han. With that, Tang Ao became his only choice. As expected, before Tang Ao could fly far, he heard the sound of wind coming from behind him. Scanning with his soul remembrance, he saw that Tang Ming was chasing after him crazily. Seeing Tang Ao's astonishing speed, Tang Ao groaned in his heart. Chapter 1262. Bam! After Tang Ao dodged it, the blood-colored ball of light blasted a few towering trees in front of Tang Ao into pieces. Instantly, dust flew as wood chips flew everywhere. The aftermath of the explosion also sent Tang Ao flying backward. He slid a long distance on the ground before Tang Ao stabilized his body. Just as Tang Ao stabilized his body, Tang Ming immediately pounced at Tang Ao like a wild beast. Previously, Tang Ao had experienced Tang Ming's prowess. At that moment, Tang Ao naturally didn't dare clash head-on with Tang Ming. Although Tang Ao didn't know much about the evil blood art, it was listed as the #1 taboo in the Hidden Dragon Catacombs. There was indeed something extraordinary about it. After Tang Ming used the evil blood art, he possessed combat instincts that could almost match a demon beast. Back when Tang Ao and company had joined forces to deal with Tang Ming, Tang Ao and company had almost no chance to sneak an attack on Tang Ming. After the mutation, Tang Ming's perception was terrifyingly sharp. Apart from his perception, the thick layer of scales on Tang Ming's body had a defense that was almost comparable to Tang Ao's battle sage Bone Life Soul. However, the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul could constantly grow with Tang Ao's cultivation level. At the present stage, the layer of scales on Tang Ming's body was in no way weaker than Tang Ao's Battle Sage Bone Life Soul. However, compared to Tang Ao's Battle Sage Bone Life Soul, Tang Ming's scales were also lacking. Tang Ao's Battle Sage Bone Life Soul could transform as he wished, but Tang Ao's scales didn't have such an effect. Of course, apart from the powerful defense brought about by the scales, Tang Ming's speed had also increased significantly after the mutation. His offensive strength was also extremely terrifying. Bam! Tang Ming charged in front of Tang Ao as his primordial energy surged. He leaped up and clawed at Tang Ao with the might of Mt Tai. These sharp claws were clearly formed from Tang Ming's hands. However, at this moment, Tang Ao could sense that these sharp claws were even harder than steel. That cold and dense aura also revealed its sharpness. Tang Ao, who was below, had a solemn expression on his face. Even so, Tang Ao seemed to have the imposing manner of Mount Tai pressing down on him. Countless golden runes jumped up from Tang Ao's body as Tang Ao released the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul. The Battle Sage Bone Life Soul was like a layer of armor, wrapping around Tang Ao tightly. After summoning the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul, a lotus flower appeared behind Tang Ao. It spun in the air and transformed into 7 identical azure lotus sword. The green lotus sword slowly rotated around Tang Ao, which was extremely beautiful. But under this beauty there was also a fatal killing intent. Go! At the instant Tang Ming's attack arrived, Tang Ao performed hand seals. Under the control of his psyche, the 7 azure lotus sword souls instantly flew in front of Tang Ao. After drawing a circle in the air, the 7 azure lotus swords transformed into 7 streams of light and shot at Tang Ming. The 7 streams of light constantly intersected along the way and finally merged into one. Like a meteor streaking across the sky, the green meteor collided with Tang Ming's sharp claws. Bam! Rumble! At the instant of the collision, the 2 powerful primordial energies stirred up ripples in the air. The surrounding trees were all snapped in half, and the surrounding soil and rocks were swept in all directions as though they had encountered a storm. For a moment, yellow sand danced and rocks fell like rain. After this attack, Tang Ao stood on the spot, panting. Chapter 1263. In his previous life, Tang Ao had been a peak-level astral-reaching realm peerless demon lord. On the path of cultivation, he had naturally experienced countless life and death situations. However, under the baptism of life and death, Tang Ao did not treat life and death lightly. Instead, he became more and more cautious. 2 lifetimes of cultivation experience had taught Tang Ao that regardless of the situation, the more cautious one was, the greater the chance of survival. Therefore, although he knew that his chances of winning against Tang Ming alone were not high, Tang Ao was still cautious. Although the odds of victory were low, it did not mean that there was no chance of victory. Even a tiger would take a nap, let alone Tang Ming. Moreover, Tang Ming did not have any absolute pressure in front of Tang Ao. The reason why Tang Ming was so powerful was because he had used a secret skill, and not because of his own abilities. Since it was a secret skill, there would definitely be a time limit. Moreover, with such a powerful secret skill, the side effects would definitely be terrifying as well. As long as Tang Ao could stall Tang Ming for a while and wait for the effects of the evil blood art secret skill to wear off, it would not be easy for Tang Ming to escape even if he wanted to. However, Tang Ao was a bit hesitant as to whether or not he should take this risk. This was because Tang Ao did not know much about the evil blood art. In Tang Ao's memory, there were many secret skills that could increase a martial artist's cultivation in an instant. However, these secret skills only lasted for a short time, and the damage to the martial artist was relatively small. There were also some secret skills that lasted for a very long time, and could be used continuously for days. Of course, the price of these secret skills was the death of the martial artist. Therefore, before confirming what kind of secret skill the evil blood art belonged to, it would be very dangerous for Tang Ao to stay and fight with Tang Ming. Moreover, this was not a normal place, but the dragon prison caves where the martial artists were imprisoned. In the dragon subduing crypt, so martial artists could all be considered as enemies. The fewer martial artists there were, the richer the yuan qi in the dragon prison would be, and the smaller the competition for treasures in the Evergreen Valley would be. Therefore, once Tang Ao fell into a bitter battle with Tang Ming, it would be easy for other martial artists to take advantage of him. Furthermore, with Tang Ao's current state, he really did not have the capital to fight Tang Ming head-on. Tang Ao estimated that even if he were to use a secret technique to burn his yuan qi to fight Tang Ming, he would only be able to last for 5 minutes at best. However, it was unknown how much longer Tang Ming could fight. Although all of this was complicated, it actually happened in a flash. Moreover, after coming to the conclusion that he couldn't win, Tang Ao immediately wanted to escape again. However, the mutated Tang Ming was too powerful. The moment Tang Ao made his decision, Tang Ming stared at the storm created by the collision and charged at Tang Ao once again. Get lost! At that moment, Tang Ao did not wish to get entangled with Tang Ming. However, Tang Ming's attacks were too ferocious. Tang Ao could not escape even if he wanted to. Tang Ao released the Azure Lotus Sword Soul, which revolved around Tang Ming and slashed out. At the same time, Tang Ao wielded the 100 Battle Spear Soul, which dissolved Tang Ming's attacks one by one. Tang Ao was a little anxious. If this went on, he wouldn't be able to afford it. Bam! Just as Tang Ao blocked Tang Ming's claw, Tang Ao's other claw smashed onto Tang Ao's 100 Battle Spear Soul in a domineering manner. The terrifying force caused the 100 Battle Spear Soul to flicker. Finally, it could not sustain itself and returned to Tang Ao's body. The instant the 100 Battle Spear Soul disappeared, Tang Ao released the Battle Sage Bone Life Soul in time. Chapter 1264. Tang Ao vaguely recalled that this woman was called Su Hongyi. She was one of the people in charge of the dragon prison castle in the hidden dragon crypt. After seeing this woman, Tang Ao hesitated for a moment before immediately flying in the direction she was heading. Tang Ming was currently at the 7th stage of the body tempering realm. It was too strenuous for Tang Ao to deal with him. However, this Su Hongyi was a warrior at the 9th stage of the body tempering realm. It was clearly not a problem for her to deal with Tang Ming. However, when Tang Ao saw that she was in a hurry, it was as though she had something urgent to attend to. Hence, Tang Ao did not dare to be certain that Su Hongyi would not stop to deal with Tang Ming. Even so, Tang Ao still wanted to lure Tang Ming over. Even if Su Hongyi tried to stop him, Tang Ao would still be able to easily escape from Tang Ming. Of course, if Su Hongyi remained completely indifferent, Tang Ao would not be completely helpless. Although it was very strenuous for Tang Ao to summon the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud, and his yuan qi would be quickly depleted after summoning it. However, when he was left with no other choice, Tang Ao could only summon the Wind Thunder Dark Cloud to escape. As Tang Ao flew in Su Hongyi's direction, Su Hongyi quickly discovered Tang Ao. After seeing Tang Ao, Su Hongyi was slightly taken aback. Following that, she saw Tang Ao chasing after Tang Ming. Indeed, someone cultivates the evil blood technique. To Tang Ao's surprise, Su Hongyi ignored Tang Ao the moment she saw Tang Ming. 2 white chains flew out of her hands like 2 agile snakes. Countless scarlet petals danced around the chains. They looked extremely slow, but their speed was astonishingly fast. In just an instant, Su Hongyi's 2 white chains had wrapped around Tang Ming. However, Tang Ao did not stop. Instead, he flew far away. When she saw Tang Ao escape, Su Hongyi's eyes flashed with contempt. Although a portion of the warriors imprisoned in the hidden dragon crypt were innocent, most of them deserved it. Tang Ao was a man, yet he had fled in the face of such a situation. Although Su Hongyi did not expect Tang Ao to be of any help, she was still very disappointed when she saw Tang Ao flee. However, Su Hongyi was clearly looking at the problem from the perspective of their gender. She had completely ignored the fact that Tang Ao was at the early stage of the body refining realm. If an ordinary martial artist at the beginning stage of the 5th stage of the body refining realm faced Tang Ming, who was at the peak of the 7th stage of the body refining realm, he would most likely be killed on the spot by Tang Ming's claw. Before Su Hongyi arrived, Tang Ao had been fighting with Tang Ming. If this wasn't the hidden dragon cave, Tang Ao was 90% confident that he could kill Tang Ming if he went all out. It was just that danger lurked everywhere in the hidden dragon cave. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Tang Ao was still unwilling to use this kind of risky tactic. Although Tang Ao had been flying far away, Tang Ao hadn't really escaped. After Tang Ao flew out of the range of Su Hongyi's soul remembrance, Tang Ao's figure flashed, and he hid in a forest. This forest was very lush, and after Tang Ao hid in the forest, it was very difficult to find traces of Tang Ao. After observing for a moment, Tang Ao chose a towering tree in the forest where it was easier to observe the battle between Su Hongyi and Tang Ming. Tang Ao sat on a thick branch and concentrated his soul remembrance. He stealthily swept his gaze over the area where Su Hongyi and Tang Ming were fighting. Due to the 9-Dragon Emperor Jade body, Tang Ao had a soul sea that other warriors did not have. The soul remembrance formed in the soul sea was much stronger than normal soul remembrance. Those with lower cultivation than Tang Ao would not be able to detect Tang Ao's soul remembrance. Although Tang Ao was only at the 5th stage of the body refining realm, when Tang Ao was at his peak, he was at the 1st stage of the life and death realm. Chapter 1265. Although this soul remembrance was very weak, under Tang Ao's powerful senses, this soul remembrance had nowhere to hide. As Tang Ao got closer to the source of this soul remembrance, the soul remembrance became clearer. After discovering this, Tang Ao wasn't happy. Instead, he became even more vigilant. This was because Tang Ao determined that the owner of this soul remembrance was definitely an extremely crafty fellow. Moreover, this person's soul remembrance far surpassed a martial artist of the same realm. However, perhaps his cultivation wasn't as high as Su Hongyi's, so he used this ingenious method that even Tang Ao was surprised. This person was currently outside of Su Hongyi's soul remembrance detection range, but he was using a method that gradually weakened his soul remembrance to increase the range of his soul remembrance detection. Tang Ao chased for a long time, but still couldn't find where this person was hiding. This caused Tang Ao to become even more vigilant. Although Tang Ao's soul remembrance was powerful, Tang Ao was currently restricted by his cultivation. Therefore, after his soul remembrance weakened to this level, it was practically nearing its limit. However, Tang Ao didn't expect that this martial artist, who was secretly spying on Su Hongyi and Tang Ming's fight, would be so cautious. Tang Ao didn't know if other people could sense the range of Su Hongyi's soul remembrance detection, but Tang Ao clearly knew that such a long distance had long since exceeded the range of Su Hongyi's soul remembrance detection. Using Su Hongyi's position as a reference, this person was much further away from Su Hongyi than Tang Ao was from Su Hongyi. Because Tang Ao could clearly sense Su Hongyi's soul remembrance fluctuations, Tang Ao just so happened to stop in an area that Su Hongyi's soul remembrance couldn't detect. However, this person was hiding so far away, causing Tang Ao to be somewhat speechless. As he sensed the slight stabbing pain in his soul sea, Tang Ao knew that he was about to reach his limit. However, what disappointed Tang Ao was that Tang Ao still hadn't discovered who was spying on the battle between Su Hongyi and Tang Ming. Taking a deep breath, Tang Ao decided to go a bit further before retracting his soul remembrance. Since there was someone observing the battle between Su Hongyi and Tang Ming, Tang Ao believed that there was someone observing the battle. As long as the outcome of the battle between Su Hongyi and Tang Ming was determined, the person hiding in the dark would definitely show himself. However, if that was the case, Tang Ao felt that he really had no place to put his old face. He, Tang Ao, was the reincarnation of a dignified demon lord. In this life, he was also a life and death powerhouse. After being stranded on the Flying Star continent, he actually lost to a native martial artist in terms of remembrance. Although Tang Ao admitted that this native martial artist was indeed outstanding in terms of remembrance and was able to think of such an ingenious method, Tang Ao was still extremely displeased. If Tang Ao's soul sea hadn't been shattered to such an extent, Tang Ao could guarantee that even if he was at the first stage of the body refinement realm, his soul remembrance would still be dozens of streets ahead of him. However, Tang Ao could only think about it. Ever since leaving the Underworld Emperor's secret realm, Tang Ao's shattered soul sea hadn't recovered. Through a series of experiences, his shattered soul sea hadn't recovered. Instead, it had become even more shattered. When he thought of this, Tang Ao bitterly laughed in his heart. However, it was at this moment that Tang Ao's soul remembrance finally found a white figure in the distance. The instant he saw this person, Tang Ao was shocked speechless. This was because this person was Wu Han, who had used a silver powder to escape not too long ago. Speaking of the silver powder, Tang Ao took out a jade box from his storage ring. Inside the jade box was a small pinch of silver powder. This silver powder was what Tang Ao had collected when he was escaping. At the time, the situation had been urgent, so Tang Ao hadn't had the time to check it. Now that he saw Wu Han, Tang Ao recalled this matter. Chapter 1266. This was because Tang Ao could sense that the psyche that was spying on Su Hongyi and Tang Ming's battle had been released from a pendant hanging on Wu Han's neck. Could it be an artifact spirit left behind from ancient times? Tang Ao's first thought was that Wu Han might have obtained some kind of heaven-defying treasure like Fatty Hai. However, after observing for a moment, Tang Ao's expression turned solemn. The necklace hanging around Wu Han's neck was indeed a treasure. However, the psyche that was transmitted from the treasure wasn't the artifact spirit's psyche. Instead, it was the psyche of a martial artist. If Tang Ao hadn't guessed wrongly, Wu Han should have at least 2 or more of these pendants hanging on his neck. The use of these mystical pendants was to allow the martial artist who wore them to transmit their psyche through the pendant within a certain range. Tang Ao originally thought that Wu Han was already being cautious enough by hiding so far away. However, after discovering this, Tang Ao realized that even a martial artist from a low-tier continent couldn't be underestimated. Especially before his strength had recovered, such a cunning enemy would definitely be extremely fatal. Fortunately, this person didn't seem to have any intention of dealing with him. Otherwise, Tang Ao wasn't sure if he could escape unscathed. Just as Tang Ao was observing Wu Han with his psyche, a trace of doubt flashed across Wu Han's eyes. This was because Wu Han had vaguely felt a trace of psyche fluctuation just now. After discovering this trace of psyche fluctuation, Wu Han immediately pursued the trace of psyche with the mindset that it was better to believe than not. However, Wu Han's surroundings were completely empty. She couldn't sense anything. When Tang Ao had discovered that it was Wu Han, his state of mind had fluctuated, causing this trace of psyche to leak out. However, Tang Ao didn't retract his psyche immediately. This was because Tang Ao knew that with Wu Han's cultivation, it was impossible for her to discover him in such a situation. However, Tang Ao was also a little depressed. There was obviously an expert behind Wu Han. It was just that because of the water droplet pendant on Wu Han's neck, Tang Ao had no way of knowing who the expert hiding behind Wu Han was. Although Tang Ao didn't have a direct conflict of interest with this group of people, this feeling made Tang Ao very uncomfortable. After thinking for a moment, Tang Ao discreetly left a soul remembrance imprint on Wu Han's pendant. This way, as long as someone else touched Wu Han's strange pendant, Tang Ao's soul remembrance would be attracted to that person. Tang Ao wasn't sure if this method could catch the person behind Wu Han, but right now, Tang Ao's cultivation was limited. Other than this method, Tang Ao didn't know what other methods he could use to catch the person behind Wu Han. Of course, if Tang Ao was able to find some method to recover his strength in the hidden dragon cave, as long as Tang Ao could raise his cultivation to the 9th level of the body refining realm in a short amount of time, then even if Tang Ao encountered an origin martial realm martial artist from the Flying Star continent, Tang Ao wouldn't be afraid. Although the 9th level of the body refining realm was only 4 levels higher than Tang Ao's current 5th level, as Tang Ao's cultivation increased, Tang Ao's strength increased explosively. For example, even if Tang Ao used all his strength, he wouldn't necessarily be able to take down Tang Ao after he used the evil blood technique. However, if Tang Ao's cultivation could recover to the peak of the 9th level of the body refining realm, Tang Ao could guarantee that he would be able to blast Tang Ming into pieces with one punch. He wouldn't be like Su Hongyi, who had been probing with Tang Ming for half a day. Chapter 1267. In the battle with Tang Ming just now, Tang Ao knew that Tang Ming was completely relying on his beast-like battle instincts to fight after he lost his rationality. Under such circumstances, apart from fighting Tang Ming head-on, there was no other way. If it had been Tang Ao, he might have been able to use some advanced array formations. However, the array formations of the Flying Star continent were too backward. At the very least, Tang Ao hadn't seen any martialists on the Flying Star continent who could use array formations to capture Tang Ming. As Tang Ao continued to understand the Flying Star continent, Tang Ao became more and more confused. Back when Tang Ao and Chu Shuahan were in the Xidagarba cemetery, they had used the Space Jade Talisman to cross planes and arrive at the Flying Star continent. Therefore, Tang Ao guessed that the space between the Flying Star continent and the Xidagarba cemetery should be very thin. However, in the area of the Xidagarba cemetery, be it the beasts or the strange plants, they were all very powerful existences. Compared to the Xidagarba cemetery, the Flying Star continent was really weak. It was so weak that there wasn't even any spiritual energy. There was only vitality that was more than 10 times weaker than spiritual energy. However, the existence of an immortal artifact had appeared in such a low-level plane. In a place where the strongest cultivators could only cultivate to the origin martial realm, the appearance of a fragment of an immortal artifact was really unimaginable. Tang Ao knew that although the hidden dragon caves were incomparably vast, the only difference between each place was the density of vitality. There was only one place that was different from all the other places in the hidden dragon caves. That was the Evergreen Valley. Ever since Tang Ao came to the hidden dragon caves, he hadn't had the chance to visit the Evergreen Valley. Just as Tang Ao was thinking, Tang Ao suddenly heard someone talking to Wu Han. The voice also came from the pendant on Wu Han's neck. It was very low and a little hoarse. It was very uncomfortable to listen to. If there's a chance later, kill Su Hongyi. A cold voice came from the pendant on Wu Han's neck. Ah! Even Wu Han was startled by this command. It's not impossible, but are you sure there aren't any other experts in the hidden dragon crypt around? Tang Ao was secretly shocked as he listened to their conversation from afar. It must be known that Wu Han was only a 5th-tier body refining realm martial artist on the surface, while Su Hongyi was at the peak of the 9th-tier body refining realm. Even with such a terrifying gap in cultivation, Wu Han did not show the slightest bit of fear when he said that he wanted to get rid of Su Hongyi. Tang Ao could only see an intense self-confidence in his eyes. It was as if Wu Han possessed some sort of technique that allowed him to bypass the 4 layers of suppression and kill Su Hongyi. "Don't worry, there isn't anyone within the range of my soul remembrance," the cold voice on the pendant continued. "The kid who ran away just now isn't here?" Wu Han and Tang Ao had fought before, so she knew that Tang Ao was cunning. According to Wu Han's conjecture, in such a situation, Tang Ao would most likely hide somewhere and wait for an opportunity to make a move. He shouldn't have escaped directly. What was the most important thing in the hidden dragon crypt? Of course, it was cultivation resources. A martial artist who had cultivated the evil blood technique to the 7th-tier body refining realm definitely had a terrifying amount of cultivation resources. Moreover, looking at the battle between Su Hongyi and Tang Ming, it was hard to say who would emerge victorious. In such a situation, Wu Han couldn't think of any reason for Tang Ao to escape. Could it be that Tang Ao was afraid of being chased by Tang Ming, so he immediately escaped when he had the chance? Everything around them was beautiful enough, but compared to this jade-like person, everything around them was nothing. The manor of the Lu family was never short of beauties. The 13 concubines of Lu Chuanjia, the leader of the manor, were all famous beauties on the Flying Star continent. Although Lu Chuanjia's 7 daughters were only 16 years old, they were all equally beautiful. Therefore, the people here were very picky. Even so, when they saw the woman in the pavilion, they couldn't help but exclaim. The worry between her eyebrows was even more pitiful. Everyone couldn't help but want to show their concern, but no one dared to do so. This was because this woman was called Chu Xuan. She was the woman that the young master of the Lu family manor, Lu Xingjin, had taken a fancy to. "Xuan, it has been 3 months. I'm afraid that friend of yours is no longer in this world." Lu Xingjin was not a patient person. No matter what, he was very impatient. Lu Xingjin, who usually couldn't even wait for 3 days, had waited here for 3 months. Chapter 1269. Back then, after Tang Ao used the spatial talisman, Chu Xuan and Tang Ao came here together. At that time, Chu Xuan was saved by Lu Xingjin, but she also saw that Tang Ao fell into the bottomless abyss. 3 months had passed and Chu Xuan's external injuries had basically all recovered. However, Chu Xuan was still very worried about whether Tang Ao was alright or not. If Tang Ao was still alive, where would Tang Ao be right now? Xuan, back then, the cliff that Tang Ao fell into was the Forgetfulness Cliff. Not to mention me, even a peak origin realm cultivator like my father would die 10 times out of 10. Lu Xingjin's patience had never been good, but at that moment, his patience seemed to be exceptionally good. So what if he's an origin realm cultivator? If Big Brother Tang Ao was at his peak? Chu Xuan didn't finish her words because she thought of the uniqueness of this place. On the Flying Star continent, Chu Xuan couldn't feel a single strand of spiritual energy, so she couldn't cultivate at all. In Chu Xuan's opinion, Tang Ao's current situation was most likely the same as hers. Impudent! After Chu Xuan finished speaking, before Lu Xingjin could say anything, a slightly solemn voice came from outside the room. This person's appearance was somewhat similar to Lu Xingjin's. He had an imposing aura on him without being angry. Clearly, he was someone who had been in a high position for a long time. This person was the master of the Lu family's manor, Lu Xingjin's father, Lu Chuanjia. "You said that Tang Ao's cultivation is very powerful? Is it because of Tang Ao that you didn't accept Xingjin? Fine, I will send down the Flying Star badge right now. As long as this Tang Ao is on the Flying Star continent, I will be able to find this Tang Ao. Lu Chuanjia's voice was very dignified. When Chu Xuehan heard Lu Chuanjia's words, she immediately became happy. As long as Tang Ao could be found, it meant that Tang Ao was still alive. Although Chu Xuehan knew that there was no spiritual energy here, for some reason, Chu Xuehan felt that Tang Ao must have a solution. When Lu Xingjin saw the faint smile that flashed across Chu Xuehan's face, his heart melted. At this moment, he hurriedly said, "Thank you, father, for being willing to worry about me." "Humph! Useless thing, for a woman you actually became like this." Lu Chuanjia coldly glanced at Lu Xingjin and said, "In 3 months, I will hold a martial contest for this girl at the Meteor Tower. If that Tang Ao was really that powerful, he would definitely show up. Whoever can suppress the heroes of the Flying Star continent on the Flying Star platform will be her Mr. Right." How could Lu Xingjin not understand that his father was helping him? He immediately cupped his fists and said, "I will listen to father's arrangements." "I disagree." When Chu Xuehan heard this, she immediately became anxious. Now that Tang Ao's whereabouts were unknown, Chu Xuehan couldn't be sure if Tang Ao would know about this matter in 3 months. Moreover, Chu Xuehan didn't know if Tang Ao could cultivate in this place. If Tang Ao couldn't cultivate at all, how could Tang Ao be a match for these people? "That's not up to you," Lu Chuanjia coldly said to Chu Xuehan, and immediately flicked his sleeves and left. Although Lu Chuanjia was also stunned by Chu Xuehan's beauty, because Chu Xuehan couldn't cultivate, Lu Chuanjia still didn't think that Chu Xuehan was a perfect match for his son. It was just that his silly son had always been obsessed with martial arts. Now that he had finally met a girl he liked, he naturally had to facilitate this beautiful marriage. Otherwise, with Lu Xingjin's talent, if he held a martial contest, who knew how many girls would fight to marry him? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.